most intense, thrilling, electrifying sport on the planet. Mixed martial arts. You've been looking for the definitive podcast to call your new home to hear everything about it. The search is over. This is the MMAnomaly Show. No filter. Bringing you the hottest MMA breakdowns straight from the heart of the octagon. This show is all about MMA breakdowns. For fans, by fans. We're talking UFC, MMA, and the occasional big boxing match. We'll bring our unique take on how these fights are going to play out and who we think are the best bets. Welcome to the MMAnomaly Show. No filter. And now your hosts, Olin, a.k.a. MMAnomaly, Emiliano, a.k.a. Jive Turkey Nano, and MadMaxMeridian.
What is up, fight fans? Welcome back to another episode of the MMAnomaly Show. No filter. I'm your host, Olin, a.k.a. MMAnomaly, and with me, as always, are the co-hosts with the mosts. We're talking about Jive Turkey Nano, folks. Always willing to talk turkey to you. And we got MadMaxMeridian, the man in the mask himself. How we doing, fellas?
Shit, you already know, boy.
Let go. We're ready to roll, baby. Good to see y'all. Feeling good, living better, you know. It's a fine day to talk some violence.
You love it.
Agreed.
You love to hear it, baby. Skilled violence is our favorite kind of violence, and that's what we're here to cover, folks. So, as you probably have noticed, we have been, we've been around. We've been around. We've been places, but those places have just not been here, guys, gals, fight fans of all shapes and sizes. We've been busy. I was at this place, UFC 302, last week. Or week before last, I guess now. Let's go, baby. Can we get some air horns up in this bitch? There you go. It was nice, man. Jersey was really, really nice to me, I'll be honest. And what up, Tyson? How we doing? Dude, yeah, Jersey was really, really nice. Zero complaints from me. Lafayette Street, you were beautiful. And the fights were fantastic. I know a lot of people that were watching them on TV on the old boob tube were saying that they were not the greatest fights in the world. That's okay. Fights I feel like are much better enjoyed. Much better enjoyed in person. You can hear the excitement. You can feel the energy. And by God, I'm going to tell you, like, this is, I think, my 6th or 7th live event that I've been to as far as like UFC or Bellator goes. And guys, this one took the cake. Like, again, like the Dominic Cruz fight card had more exciting fights top to bottom. I will openly admit that, especially if you're watching it on TV. But the energy in Jersey was very different, you guys. Like, it was a nice energy. I don't know if it conveyed or carried well on TV or not, but man, like I mentioned it to Mary whenever we first sat down. Or I guess like stood up, because we stood up for most of the night for the fights. But whenever we got to our seats and had the ability to sit down, I mentioned it to her, like, this is probably the most full I've ever noticed it in an arena for fight number one.
Oh, yeah.
It was fight number one on the early prelims, and it was like half packed in that place.
Yeah, I don't know if you got a chance to see a lot of the pre-fight lead up in terms of the weigh-ins or the ceremonial weigh-ins or things like that.
I was at the ceremonial weigh-ins.
Well, so to answer your question about if it translated or not, I was to say, not only did I'm sure it translated in the octagon on Saturday, but brother, like all week, I knew it was going to be buzzing because it was fired up at all the events, the yelling, the shit talking, the chanting, talking shit to Islam, everything about it. Like, USA, USA. It was like it was buzzing. You can tell those New Jersey boys and gals were ready for some violence.
Agreed. I think the commentary team even said something about it like once or twice about how loud it was in there and stuff.
Early and often.
Yeah, it was extremely loud. It was very, very loud. The craziest thing to me was the fact that the loudest pop in the entirety of the whole event was due to Donald Trump walking out. Very, very peculiar situation.
Trump might have the most legendary walkout of all time. I mean, it was probably the slowest for sure. The longest one, shook the most hands. But there was something about it. I mean, I'm not gonna say if I'm a fan or not because I'm pretty indifferent about him. I think he's entertaining. I'll say that. But boy, was that! I just thought my thought as I'm watching it live was he is just stealing the moment right now. Like this feels like it was the Trump show all of a sudden for that moment.
Set aside any political affiliation, you simply cannot deny the man's charisma. Like it's what the kids are calling aura these days, and it's like, well, I mean, back when I was in school and all the rest of history, we called it charisma. But either way, he's got it in bushels, if I could talk right. So yeah, I could see that pop for sure being probably the loudest of the night. Now that you've said it, it makes sense.
He's the Rizzler, the Riz. He's got the Riz.
The Rizzler. I never in my life thought I would hear that. Donald Trump called the Rizzler.
That's what the kids are saying these days. He's got that Riz. He's the Rizzler.
You ain't lying. You right, player. You right.
Hold on. I see some lips moving. Did we double down?
Sorry. I'm just taking it all in. I was overcome by the Riz, the Rizmatiz of it all. Also pretty sure we may have just lost 5 subscribers. So thanks for that. Yay, politics. No. We don't choose a side when it comes to politics on this podcast, folks. We only choose a side when it comes to mixed martial arts. And most of the time, we don't even agree on that. So make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. We're not here to talk about Trump for the rest of this episode. But again, there's no denying the fact that he definitely got the loudest pop in the entire arena. It made no sense. Also very curious and peculiar that he gets his own fighter style walkout every time there's a fight card. I'm waiting on Tate to Vaseline him up. I mean, that's the next step, right? Like, I genuinely am just waiting on Tate to be like, all right, Mr. Trump.
Yeah, he didn't have the corner man, but he did have a ton of scary individuals in his corner. And I'm talking about some social or the security team is just absolutely crazy. Black Ops. He's
Secret Service in that bitch.
Yeah, Secret Service. That's what I was looking for.
So much to digest there. So when it comes to the fights, we don't have to go through all of them, obviously. Like I said, a lot of decisions. A lot of decisions, right? If we're talking about the most exciting fights on paper as far as finishes and things like that, it's got to be the Jailton Almeida submission in round 1, I think is probably the first big pop, right? We'll go to our residential grappler in the mask here, the man in the mask, the man on the right. Tell us how that made you feel, man. Jailton Almeida back in the win column and making it look pretty damn easy.
Yeah, he really did. And that's something we were talking about during the breakdown is Romanov, he just shows up all over the place. He showed up in fights before looking like a brick shit house, and then he shows up looking like a complete slob. And just stylistically, he's kind of got like a Greco-Roman base more for his wrestling, which just generally, it doesn't match up well against like the American folk style wrestling. And Jailton Almeida does employ more of that style. He's more of a low shot, getting like a low single, low double, kind of leg entanglements and stuff like that. Whereas Romanov seems to want to tie up more up top, almost judo-esque, where they like to do a lot of tying up, a lot of clinch, bending over at the hips and stuff like that. And Jailton is just like, no, I'm going to go ahead and set my knee down on the mat, get a nice low shot on your fat ass, and then take you down. As far as the submission goes, I'm going to stand by what I've said about Jailton multiple times, and I catch flack for it everywhere. The guy's not doing anything that special. He's just got the horsepower to back it up. Now, he's doing things correctly. It's very basic jiu-jitsu. Nothing flashy, which gets the job done. As long as you got the horsepower or the skill to back it up, or maybe even a sprinkle of both, it's all good. And Jailton Almeida went out there and I don't know. Do you think Romanov gets cut after this? I've been thinking about that. It's like, man, he's just so all over the place. Like, I could see that little tweet, fighter removed, Alexander Romanov. I don't know. What do you boys think on it?
Yeah, I feel like the heavyweight division is just not that deep right now. He definitely potentially could, but he can fill up a early prelim like he's continuously done. Granted, may not be on the winning side every time, but there are a lot of those guys that get grandfathered into that kind of role that may not be on the winning side. We've seen people with 7 fight losing streaks. The other way. Not used to saying that. I'm looking at El Kukui there, our boy. maybe he got a little special treatment, but I digress. Yeah, I mean, it's to your point, I think Jonathan needs to get tested as well. As I dish it off to the MMAnomaly, that's my one critique there is he looks great, but he does kind of rely on that athleticism and his explosion and just his sheer strength, coupled with some really high-level skills, which is about the same playing field with these other heavyweights for the most part. But I want to see him challenged a little bit more. He did call out Cyril Gane. I thought that was a fantastic call out. Would love to see that. Take him to Francois and go in his backyard and go fight him. What was it? Ovidaze, as they say. Trying to think of some other French words. What you think of MMAnomaly?
Yeah, I'm not mad at that. I mean, great breakdown, both of you guys. I got to be honest, Mad Max. I hadn't thought about it before you brought it up, but I guess he's not really doing anything that special, right? He's a very, very fast. He's like a very fit Daniel Cormier if he did things in reverse. If he started at light heavyweight and then went up to heavyweight, right? He already got the speed advantage, +2 to speed, cloak of speed. And then, he got like boots of endurance. So now he's faster and lasts longer than all these other guys at heavyweight. And it's a result of him training at light heavyweight. So the guy is simply going to keep leveling up. Now he's just at a point where he's getting strength buffs, right? Every time he beats somebody, it's like getting an infinity stone for this kid. He just seems that much better, in my opinion. But as you said, like, he's not doing anything outrageous. He's not doing anything super special, but he's winning. And he's making it look really clean when he does win. I like that. As a bettor, I really like that. It's a good look. And he's one of those guys, like, kind of like Rude Boy, Randy Brown, where, like, he looks extremely good up until the very moment that he doesn't, right? Mm-hmm. What up, T? T-Piz. Always giving you the piz. What up, brother? Miss you. Can't wait to have you back in town and do some shots, man. And remember at least a third of the night with you. Typically how it goes with that guy and me.
Let's go, legend.
It's not that he's bad or I'm bad. Like, fire is great. Keeps you warm, cooks your food. Dynamite's great. Helps level bridges. That way you can rebuild them better. He is dynamite. I am fire. We just fucking blow shit up, dog. Not great when together sometimes.
Doesn't he look so cool in that picture?
Definitely been
I love that. That's like the coolest.
He looks fire in that picture. Look at that
picture I've seen on YouTube or anything.
Is that a little uncle and niece action there?
That's a couple of G's right there.
That's fire. That's fire.
It's a couple of badass individuals.
Oh, remember the name Tatsuro Taira, brother. We're gonna be breaking it down on Thursday. We're gonna be breaking it down on Thursday. You better believe, brother. Tatsuro Taira. I've been drinking that Kool-Aid. That was one of the only things I was sad about when I went to UFC 302. Is that fight got moved off that card? It was originally supposed to be there. Missed out on it, man. But I digress. We're talking about Jailton Almeida here. We're talking about the man, the myth, the legend, the reverse fit Daniel Cormier here. He went out there and got it done, right? 2 minutes, 27 seconds. As you stated, Mad Max, Alexander Romanov, very Greco-Roman-esque style fighter here, which doesn't match up the best for a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu style fighter that has nice little blast doubles and slick takedowns a la Jailton Almeida. So we seen it. We saw it coming, guys. Now, the big question here is, do you have a name on the tip of your tongue for this guy that you're not superbly impressed with, Mad Max? I do.
Oh, now I'm curious if we're going to say the same one. I've got a seasoned vet that I want to see how he holds up against. This is kind of I don't want to call him a journeyman because people kind of have a negative connotation on that, but that's actually, in my opinion, not a bad thing. It's kind of like a gatekeeping type role. It's like, this is the test, and I'm going to go with Marcin Tybura. I think he's a better grappler than old Romanov. I think he's more durable than Romanov. He doesn't give up the submissions that Romanov does. I actually could see him potentially winning that fight. But yeah, who do you guys got for him next? I'll ramble all night about it.
No, who you got?
We're talking about Jailton, right? I think, how honor his wishes, man. He went out there, he beat who the UFC wanted him to go out there and beat, and he called for Cyril Gane, and I think he has enough namesake. I think the loss to Curtis Blades can potentially be more of the fluke. I think this is the best litmus test. Granted, he's going to go in there and have an advantage from a wrestling and grappling perspective, so that's a great fight for him. So it's not necessarily the test you want, but it's a test that he can pass nonetheless, baby. But I do like Marcin Tybura as well. I think that's a good alternative if Cyril doesn't want to do it, or maybe the timing's off. Wouldn't be mad at that whatsoever. What you thinking, MMA Anomaly? You gonna go off and be an anomaly here on this one?
I gotta be different, man. It's in the name. I gotta be a little bit different. I can't be the same. Look, I know we already saw this somewhat recently, but I'm gonna throw out kind of a crazy thing here. I'm gonna say loser of Curtis Blades versus Tom Aspinall. I think
not crazy.
I mean, if Curtis Blades is coming off of a loss, you run it back. One guy coming up, one guy coming down. They're at the same fucking trajectory here, guys. Like, everything lines up. It's like the planets aligned for that. And then if Tommy Aspinall comes off of a big loss to Curtis Blades, you gotta put him in there in another tough test against another strong grappler. But this time one with, I would say, somewhat less heavy hands than a Curtis Blades.
I'll cry if that happens. If Aspinall loses to Curtis Blades, I'm crying.
Dude, same. I'm a huge Aspinall fan, bro. Tommy
That first
Aspinall.
one broke my fucking heart.
Aspinall. Big fan.
My cousin came in town for that first fight. We grilled, had people over. I mean, all night I wouldn't shut up about Tom Aspinall. And then he goes out there and does that. I'm like, cool, forget it. Everybody get out of my house. Awful. I like the matchup, though. Not to completely digress there. I love the matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think who I watched that fight with. I either watched it with Drew or Tien, actually. Either way, I don't remember it because I watched it with Drew or Tien. Yes, love that you love it. Let's give him the rematch. All we need is for Tom to win, and then everybody wins, really. Like, we win as fans, we get the rematch with those guys. Tom, hey, right? So we keep it moving. We keep it pushing, folks. So, moving down the line, after that, we had Roman Kopylov getting a windy decision. I actually pretty much called that fight going with him being just a step ahead throughout the fight, whether it was a finish or not. I thought he was going to end up grinding it out. He did. Randy Rude Boy Brown getting it done over Alicio Zaleski dos Santos. This one, I know it was a decision. I know it was not a crazy like knockout or anything like that. But guys, I was stoked. I was stoked to see the kid get it done. And then finding out that he broke his foot in like the first round, getting his kick elbow checked. Just nasty. Because I was there live. Yes, Aspinall did have us crying. Yes, I did watch it with Tien. And then we drank another half a bottle of tequila. And I don't even like tequila. But Tien does. So that's what we drank that night. So yeah, you guys, Randy Brown getting it done. Like, I mean, I'm just curious to hear, like, did you see or did you notice that his foot was broken like that? Because again, like, I was there live. I feel like he did a great job with a poker face, switching stances, masking it, fighting a really good fight, other than maybe not being able to defend the takedowns to the best of his ability as a result of having a fucking broken foot. Makes sense now in hindsight. But watching it live, I couldn't tell that anything was broken. Nano, could you?
No, I was sitting here thinking, I wish I would have watched it a couple times, or let me rephrase that. I wish I would have rewatched it knowing that knowledge, because maybe we could have seen a little bit of a decline over the rounds. I think with a broken foot or toe, or depending on the actual injury itself, maybe would have debilitated a little bit more. But I felt like, no, I didn't see any slowing down. If anything, I thought he was picking things up, at least with his hands. And maybe that prevented some of his what I look at as quickness, athleticism, like good IQ, moving, cutting angles. Like, he typically does move a lot. Maybe, again, he just had a little bit less of that. But I think just the sheer adrenaline, the sheer dog that our boy Randy Rude Boy Brown, the cloth from which he is cut from, as John Anik would like to say, he's just built a little different, man. He had a great poker face. I think he had an opponent that maybe complemented that well, someone that wasn't challenging in those ways. I'm curious, to hear what you guys think, if maybe it would have been different if he was having to stuff more takedowns, or if it would have, I don't know, he wasn't throwing any kicks. Maybe that is another thing to keep in mind there. But I thought he looked great, man. Yeah, knowing that just makes me think this guy's that much more of a badass. And hey, adrenaline is a hell of a drug.
Oh, you're on mute, Mad Max.
Classic. What a jackass.
Classic double mute. It hits us all. It hits us double.
Yeah, I'm sitting here making noise, so now I'm like, let me mute this so I can't sit still. But either way, not to be like that guy or whatever. No, I did not notice the foot, but I was watching it with two of my buddies, and I was like, man, I wonder if something's wrong. I noticed his big toe. I didn't notice the rest of the foot. Did it end up being a full foot break, or do we know what ended up becoming of it? Because it looked like his toenail came off or something is what I was saying. And then like the next round I was like, oh well, never mind, it seems like it's okay. But
he said he broke his foot on the Helwani show the next day.
Okay, gotcha. I mean, it makes sense why
he said he broke it, I think 2 minutes in. Sorry to interrupt. He said he threw the kick and he caught an elbow on the base of his foot. So I felt it. Mine didn't break, thank God, but it got a pretty terrible hematoma that Mary was concerned about for like a week.
Yeah, that shit's nasty, especially those like little thin bones on the top of your foot. Like I've been there, done that a couple different times. That shit's brutal. But it also makes sense why maybe the fight went the way it did, where it was kind of a dragged out little fight there. He didn't get the finish or anything, but for a guy who relies on movement and speed and stuff like that, like Randy Brown does, it kind of makes sense that, a broken foot would then alter the trajectory of the fight to some extent. But I was glad to see him, tough it out and go out there and do what it took to get it done. It wasn't the flashiest, most crazy fight, but it was grit, and he did what it took. That was fight IQ all day long.
Beautiful fight IQ, beautiful fight. Curious to hear if you guys have a name on the tip of your tongue here as far as who this young man should fight next in the welterweight division.
Who you got, Nano?
I was gonna try to quickly pull up the UFC rankings here. You put me on the spot, but no, honestly, he called out a top 15 guy, and the fan in me, but also if you're looking at the brass tacks, why not, right? He's been a long-time guy. Like, who else deserves it more than Randy Rude Boy Brown? Give him someone in the top 15. Did he call out Neil Magny? Or I think he just mentioned anybody, but give him Neil, give him Vincente, give him any of those guys, man. I'd love to see him square off. Joaquin Buckley is someone that can fill up some seats there. That's in the rankings. Doesn't answer your question. I just listed off, again, anyone in the top 15. I can continue to go down there, but I'll honor those wishes, man. I don't know if y'all have anyone in mind that can maybe sway me a little bit here, because I'm sellable. I'm listening. What do y'all got? What you think, Mad Max?
I don't hate the Vincent Luque rematch. Like, give him another shot at it, especially because it's been a minute. My thought was Wonder Boy, just to kind of further give Randy Brown a chance to kind of like build the name higher. But that was my first thought. Apparently, I beat Olin to it. Yeah, that's how she goes sometimes.
You fucking douchebag. You fucking dick. Yeah, I literally had Wonder Boy and then Vicente ? Because I think Diaz might pull out, and he's scheduled to fight Vicente, and they will need a short notice replacement. And I think Rude Boy might be that guy. So
I like it.
I think whether Vicente pulls out or Nick pulls out, if you call Rude Boy, he'd probably take that fight.
It's been 4 years too. I mean, like, give them. I think their careers have gone in very different paths too. It seems like Randy Brown is steadily getting better, whereas Vincent Luque has kind of. I'm a big Luque fan too, and he kind of seems like he's regressing a little bit. So I'd like to see Randy Brown get that one back. I think it's a very winnable fight for him.
I agree. I couldn't agree more with you. Moving on, we had Nico Price versus Alex Morano. Moving on, we had Kevin Holland versus Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. That was a fun fight. We could talk about that one for a minute. Mikhail Oleksiejczuk, I haven't pissed my pants in a very long time, especially as an adult man, but he made me do it that Saturday night. I thought he murdered Kevin Holland. It was like WWE-esque. He essentially fucking clotheslined the guy. Like, he flatlined him for sure. And then like Ryan Cabrera in the early 2000s, on the way down, fucking Kevin Holland just decided to wake the fuck up, and he played the game. 8 strikes landed on one side, 9 strikes landed on the other. And that's all she wrote. One submission attempted, one submission given. I thought everything looked really clean. Obviously, when guys are dry, it's a lot easier to pull these things off. But to say it's easier to pull these things off, like, fuck you. Like, that's a very pretentious thing to say, especially for a guy that's shit at grappling like myself and much more of a striker. So it was bliss to watch. I thought Kevin Holland showed vast improvements in the grappling realm in the very quick, albeit display that we got to see. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it, Mad Max. Did anything impress you or stand out? I mean, the thing that impressed me the most, obviously, was the grappling overall from Mad Max. From Mad Max's grappling always impresses, guys. Make sure you tune in on twitch.tv /MadMaxMeridian. But no, Kevin Holland, obviously training in Hendrickson. I think the grappling looked good. I mean, or rather the I'm on my back and I'm still going to win grappling. Yeah. What stood out to you, man? What impressed you?
Well, the knockdown, of course, like, it was a little bit concerning. I think he was a little off balance too. I don't think he was quite like out. Like, the commentary team absolutely lost their shit and everything. And it's like, I don't think that was really him out, or he wouldn't have snatched that arm up quite as fast as he did. But you just don't see a ton of submissions off your back these days. And to see Kevin Holland like set this up, and of course, he swept them all the way over for the full extension on the armbar. But it was good to see like somebody actually setting shit up from their back. But I mean, Kevin Holland, he's a black belt, slick submissions. He's caught multiple people in submissions. While he did get dominated against Hamzat, people needed to go back and watch those scrambles. Hamzat did not have an easy time locking up the submission on him. He got out of the submission multiple times in shit that any normal person would have tapped from any of those submissions. And the way he was able to scramble out has always impressed me and will always impress me. Kevin Holland, he's just a slick dude on the ground. He snatches up submissions really well. The way he had that armbar out, and then it's like he gave Oleksiejczuk a chance and kind of like looked at the ref, and then he freaking like bites down on it and just goes, "Ugh!" and like yanked it down over his hip, that's kind of a common misconception with the armbar as well, is that you bring it straight up the middle. It's a good way to rack yourself, one, but two, you actually go diagonal across your hip bone. You break it over the side, kind of, and then you can also tuck it behind your arm from that point and fully hip into it.
You're using your leg like as a fulcrum to fucking break it.
Yeah, you just don't want to. I mean, you don't want to rack yourself. You got a lot of soft bits in the middle that'll give way faster than your hip bone will.
The worst time I've ever been armbarred when I like used to train at AKA was literally when someone, instead of hugging it and leaning back, they like did I call it the lazy boy armbar, because like they're propping themselves up with one hand, and they're racking my shit over their fucking leg with the other, and I'm like, well, this is embarrassing.
Yeah, it was good to see. Good shit.
It was nice. It was very nice to see. And I don't know if you've gone back and rewatched that on the other, the different camera angles, but you can literally see in one camera angle, Kevin Holland looks at him, realizes he's not going to tap due to it just being uncomfortable, and he says, "All right, then." And that's when he just yanks and cranks that shit over his leg. He's basically saying like, "All right, I'm going to put a crack in that arm like they put a crack in the Liberty Bell." He hit him with the Ricky Bobby, man. No. How'd that make you feel?
He did, brother. It made me feel good, man. Made me feel good for Big Mouth. That was a fantastic exchange. I'm glad Mad Max was here to paint a better picture there, because I'm just watching it in amazement and thought, oh, whoa, 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 whoa. That was basically how it translated to me and my crew. But yeah, man, I'm really excited for him. It was a great win. Michael Lowe looked tough, man, especially going in. The weigh-ins, everything, I was like a little worried there for a second. A little concerned, but our boy Kevin Holland, man, able to find a way to dig deep and just walk out. And I don't want to say just roll out of bed, but I mean, in terms of weight cutting, essentially did. He was eating just fine all week. This is maybe, I mean, I don't know if this is a better weight class or not. We can probably debate it, although we have a lot to cover tonight, but he looks good, man. So I don't know. If I guess he's a tough one to pick what's next for, because he can do anything at any weight, basically. But he is ranked at welterweight. Maybe I'd love to see him continue to maybe defend that ranking versus going up and, I don't know, just making money fights, which you totally can. I wouldn't be mad at that either. Go fight whoever you want. I'm going to tune in to watch him fight. That's what I do know. What do you think, Olin?
Man. When it comes to this guy, I mean, there's a lot of different options you could give to Kevin Holland, right? He looked good out there. He looked really good out there. He impressed me. Obviously, getting dropped and rocked the way that he did was not the best thing in the world. But again, like him taking this fight at middleweight, he didn't have to cut any weight. He looked really good. He looked really healthy. I wouldn't be mad at him getting one of two names here. One of them is booked, so I know it's not likely. I'm just going to say if he comes off of a loss, this name makes sense, and the other name, if he's not booked, makes sense. So if Khamzat goes out there and loses his match against Robert Whittaker, I think a Khamzat versus Big Mouth full camp rematch makes a lot of sense. The other name, should Big Mouth decide to stay at middleweight, I think he matches up really, really well against a Roman Dolidze. I think that'd be a really fun matchup. Roman hits really hard, but he also leaves a lot of openings. He's a very sluggish fighter. Barbaric, dare I say. In a good way. Love you. Big fan, Roman. But yeah, I think those are great matchups for him. I'm curious. Yeah, do you have any names on the tip of your tongue here?
Well, I like the Dolidze matchup now that I'm sitting here thinking about it. I think that's actually a winnable fight for Holland as well. I had two names also. It wasn't either of those. I had Caio Borralho, or Bohaio, or however you say it. And then I was thinking he got rid of Michael Oleksiejczuk, so give him another Michael, the Brazilian one this time. Give him Michel Pereira. I thought that would be almost an even more fun matchup. The Kyle one is just kind of like a grappler's delight because both those dudes can get down, but the Michel Pereira is just a fun matchup.
Jeez, Michel, that is a good one. Oh boy.
Man,
so take out the middleweight Michels.
I was just saying,
I hate that I love that.
Is everyone consideration he's got to stay at middleweight then? It sounds like that's a consensus here.
I think that's what he was saying in an interview earlier.
Yeah, he was saying he wants to stay at middleweight because he likes eating steak every day.
That's exactly, yeah. Now that you said the steak part, that's exactly what he said, yeah.
And I mean, like, yeah, I got to be honest with you. Like, I can't argue with that. Like, if it's between eating steak or chicken every day, I mean, give me steak and let me fight at 185.
Yeah, he looked good. Yeah, I guess he's
Looked
only
really
ranked 15th, so he can, if he's willing to sacrifice that, I suppose. Why not?
He's one of those tweeners. Better. It kind of sucks that they don't. That's where they start jumping 15 pounds, 55, 70, 85. It's like if they did 10 pounds there, he'd probably be a perfect 80, or even if, from 155, so it'd be a 75er. He'd probably be perfect in one of those in-between weight classes, in my opinion.
He'd be a perfect 75 the same way that Dustin would be a perfect 165.
Yeah.
I truly believe that. All right, moving into the next fight, then we had Sean Strickland versus Paulo Costa. What a fight! What a fight! There were over 300 strikes landed in this fight. Over 660 strikes thrown in this fight. Pretty crazy. Because if you ask anybody to watch this fight, they would tell you that there were like 10 strikes thrown. And that it was the most boring fight they've ever seen in their entire life. Pretty crazy stuff. Nano, you look like you're excited to talk about Sean Strickland. Do you want to talk about this fight at all? Did anything about this fight excite you?
I mean, I guess just to cover my 2 cents here, I feel like it was exactly how we thought it was going to go for the most part. Both guys look great. Paulo had some moments in the beginning, but he really just was not able to keep up with that pace. I mean, Sean looked good as always, stayed focused. Once I realized like Paulo really wasn't going to get him out of there with that one shot, I just felt like, okay, we're going to see just 25 minutes of what feels like an essential glorified sparring match, which is kind of what Sean does. He turns it into this sparring match. And as our boy MMAnomaly's happily demonstrating here, the teep kicks, the feints, the jab, the movements, the pressure moving you forward, making you go backwards. Someone like a Paulo Costa, this guy, can't take him serious, just isn't able to keep up. So it was exactly what I thought was going to happen. But Sean's the man, and big fan of him. Whether I say he's polarizing, whether you love him or hate him. Thank you, Olin, for those fantastic moves there. Round of applause for MMAnomaly there, the great moves. This is thank you, brother. Good demonstrations of our boy Sean Strickland. But he's legit, man. And honestly, if I'm him, I think you did what you proved, what you needed to prove. You fought everybody on the roster, damn near. I think you kick back, kick your feet up, kick those boots, go shoot some stuff, and wait till that title shot comes knocking. Whether it's Israel Adesanya, which is a great narrative, or Dricus du Plessis, another great narrative, just run it back. That was a really close fight. I like where Sean's at, man. He's sitting right where he needs to be. So great job to him. And Paolo, still a fun guy. Costa is someone we're going to want to watch. Secret Juice. He still has some fun fights. He can still make some money. But I don't think he has champion in his future.
Well said. I'd have to agree on basically all of that. I mean, it was exactly like we said. Strickland is the better technician, and unless some kind of fluke outcome happens, like generally speaking, the better technician is going to get it done. I think Strickland by decision was like a minus 150 or something. I remember playing that one. He was a pretty big money line, but the decision, I don't know, it felt like it was a pretty, I don't want to say a sure thing, but it felt like a pretty safe bet in my opinion. We played that one for sure, and I don't know that I get the whole boring fight thing. Like it was, you can't say a fight's boring when there's 660 strikes being thrown. Like how the hell does that equate to boring? And while it's not like they're going in there slugging, sorry that they're better than going in there and slugging. Like sorry that you didn't see two dudes go in there and just throw haymakers. Like, oh, sorry that they're better than that. My bad. I don't know. I don't get this one at all. And we were talking about the decisions, that there was a bunch of decisions throughout 302. There was a lot of bad split decisions throughout 302 as well, and this was one of them. No way in hell should Paulo Costa have won any judge like card. That's just insane. Strickland beat the shit out of him. I don't get that at all. Disappointing.
I agree, man. I agree. Take a deep breath. I can tell you're upset. We all are. Judging sucks in MMA. It is one of the biggest first world problems to my knowledge, if I'm being real with you fellas. Truly, it's a tough thing though. Like the amount of strikes, total strikes and significant strikes landed were 30 more damn near for Sean Strickland, and he won every single round. I think maybe if you're being generous, you give one round to Paulo. If you're being generous, and maybe he gave you like a free sample of Secret Juice. But otherwise, I don't know, man. I mean, I think I was looking for like a bald eagle sound in my little soundboard setup here, but I don't have one. Oh, there we go. Sean got it done, folks. That's actually exactly what it sounded like in the arena. A lot of USA chants, a lot of Donald Trump chants, a lot of chants that I won't say on here because I will definitely get us canceled. We can talk about it after the show for sure. Great times. But yeah, this was not a boring fight, but it was not the most exciting fight I've ever seen in my entire life, right? It was two guys throwing strikes, one guy without knockout power, the other with knockout power, but not really willing to engage with the full intensity of his power threshold, right? Because he doesn't want to gas himself out. He's going against a guy that he knows can go 25 minutes nonstop, the same pace he did in the first 5 minutes. And that's Sean Strickland. He will finish the last 5 minutes the same exact way that he started the first 5 minutes. Aside from the last 20 seconds where he's like, let's go, USA! He's like running and throwing like crazy kicks like he's the fucking Karate Kid. But other than that, like very consistent work from Sean Strickland throughout the entirety of the fight. And you know that's going to be the case. So Paulo fought a smart fight to an extent. Could he have done something different and maybe had a different outcome? Absolutely. I think if I'm his coach, which I met his coach, Eric Albertocin, if I'm his coach, in between rounds like 2 and 3, I'm probably telling him like, hey man, I know we gave you this game plan. It's not working. We need to empty the fucking barrels here. We need to burn the village to the fucking ground. And if we burn along with it, we burn along with it because we're just not going to win this way. That's simply the fact of the matter. He's not going to win point fighting Sean Strickland. There's not many fighters in the middleweight division that will. I think we've seen that happen. So you've almost got to do what DDP did to him, and that's attack him with a puppy dog-like energy. Come at him with an energy that even you can't suspect what's happening next. Like, think about like a fucking 60-pound 1-year-old puppy, right? Like it doesn't want to hurt you. It doesn't know what it's going to do next. And you don't mean to be scared, but there's a part of you that's kind of scared. So you can't really act normal when you're scared like that. You're flinching, you're fidgeting when they're jumping towards you, and they're so sporadic. Like, that's how I would describe DDP, Dricus du Plessis, the way he fights. He has large puppy dog energy. Like, you know he's going to hurt you. You don't quite know how. You don't even know if he's going to mean to. He might just fucking rush into you and accidentally bump you with his shoulder, but that big motherfucker's probably going to do some damage. That's how you have to attack Sean Strickland. I don't even think you can be calm and calculated the way that an Israel Adesanya usually fights, right? We saw how that played out. He's just going to completely close the gap and pressure you. Pressure. So, yeah, I don't get the narrative that this is a boring fight. I thought this was a cerebral fight. That's how I would describe it. I would say it was a cerebral fight on one side and a miscalculated fight on the other. No more, no less. Now, what's next for Sean Strickland? He said he's willing to wait on the shelf. Like the milk carton that you don't see in the back that ends up going bad and expiring without ever getting any love. I'm curious to hear what you guys think of that strategy. Like, do you think he gets a title shot for waiting on the shelf like that? Or do you think he has to stay active here? And if he does have to stay active, who do you want to see him fight next, Mad Max?
If he was almost anybody else, I would be worried about it, given the amount of star power he has now. I mean, he's just blown the hell up. I actually think, yeah, he could probably get away with it, especially how dominant he was and, excuse me, how close the Dricus fight was. I feel like it could actually pan out for him. And I'm one of those people that typically thinks that's a horrible idea because time is of the essence here in the fight game. Like, that is literally everything. And to just watch that dwindle away without capitalizing on it, it seems foolish. But in the spot that Strickland is, I think it's wise. Should he not get that that title rematch or shot at Izzy or whatever it ends up being, I would like to see him fight the winner of Whitaker and Hamzat. That was the route I was thinking more with that outcome. So loser can fight the other end, and then winner can fight old Strickland.
That'd be fire. Woo, that'd be fire. I like that. It's the only guys he hasn't fought yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not mad at that. The only other name that came to mind for me is obviously if he does want to stay active, Nasruddin Imavov. I mean, coming off a big win over Jared Cannonier, it's the only name in the division that he hasn't fought. I think that fight makes a lot of sense. But I'm also not mad at him getting the winner of that other fight. I just think the winner of that other fight will actually have more of a petition, more of a birthright to get that title shot ahead of Sean. Just because it'd be like semi-fresh blood. Someone that hasn't fought for the title indefinitely in Khamzat, or someone that hasn't fought for the title in some time in Robert Whitaker.
I mean, if Khamzat gets it, it's a wrap.
It's a wrap. He's getting the title shot, and he's getting it in fucking Abu Dhabi.
I agree 100% on Hamzat. The Whitaker aspect, I don't necessarily see that happening, but Hamzat, he's just as big a star as Sean Strickland just overseas. So yeah, if he wins, that's basically all he needs to get a title shot at this point.
I think that's fair game, bud. So moving into the main event of the evening, then. The main event of the evening for UFC 302. Oh, it was, as Foghorn Leghorn from the Looney Tunes would say, it was the best of times. I'll say it was the worst of times. Because, we saw the champion in Islam Makhachev get his due roses and truly just show that he belongs in this division. He belongs at the top of the mountain, and he's not the second coming of Khabib Nurmagomedov. I think we can say that with fair confidence at this point. But he's definitely the first coming of Islam Makhachev, and that's a terrifying fucking thing. He does not have the smothering style of grappling that Khabib does, where he can negate anything that you offer and bring to the table. But I also don't think that Khabib would have stood for a majority of 4 rounds with Dustin Poirier and boxed with him and outstruck him on the feet the way that Islam did. I don't think that Khabib would have done a lot of things the way that Islam did. And Islam learned a shit ton from that fight because of the damage he took. His face looked different after that fight than it's ever looked after a fight previous to this. And let me tell you, I don't think his face is going to look like that ever again until maybe his last fight of his career when he decides to retire. That might be a bold statement, but that's a statement that I will probably fucking die on the hill of. And I say that firmly as a Dustin Poirier fanboy. He is my favorite fighter of all time. Probably will be until the day I die. I was having this conversation with Mary's cousin literally today. Like, I don't know what another fighter will have to do to surpass Dustin Poirier as my favorite fighter of all time, but it's going to be a lot. Like the resume, the style of fighting, the energy, the grit, and I put this in quotes during our conversation online, the goodness inside and outside of the octagon. Like he's just a good dude that you really want to get behind and root for, man. So the mixed martial arts world is going to be different without him. It's better to have had him. And I truly hope that 10 years from now, we see him cornering fighters the way that Mike Brown is. And we see him being the ones that are giving these brilliant game plans and kind of nurturing and fostering the talent in fighters of tomorrow. Because I truly think that he still has a lot to give, whether it's inside of the octagon fighting or inside of the octagon coaching. Thank you, Dustin Poirier, for everything that you've done inside of the sport and outside. For Louisiana and for mixed martial artists alike. And congrats on a world-renowned career and being able to definitely say you paid the cost to be the boss. Moving into Islam Makhachev. Before I pass on the torch here, I'm just going to say one more time. Stunning performance. He outstruck Dustin Poirier every single round. He definitely got stuffed on some takedowns, right? He went 1 for 3 on average here. He got 5 for 16 total. That showed a lot in Dustin's improvements, right? I don't think a lot of other fighters are going to be able to stuff takedowns the way that he was. And maybe Mad Max is going to talk me off that ledge here in just a second. But I don't know. I don't know, man. We'll find out. Why don't you go ahead and take over now, Mad Max? I can tell you're chomping at the bit. Tell us how this fight made you feel.
Oh, man, it made me feel a lot of things. Made me feel sad for Poirier. Of course, you want to see him get it done. It was cool to see him do as well as he did. Of course, it sucks that he didn't get the outcome that we wanted. However, I do think that this was kind of like a last, I don't want to say a last hurrah, but it was like he knew what the stakes were, and it's like, let's go out guns a-blazing. Now, I've also seen Arman Sarukian kind of talking shit about him, which upsets me a little bit. Conversely, on the Islam side of things, I think he looked very human. I think we're going to see a short title reign. I think given the success that Poirier had, there's significantly better grapplers than Poirier all throughout this division. This is probably the most stacked lightweight has ever been. So while I could see Islam being around for quite a while, it wouldn't surprise me in the least to see him lose that belt real soon, especially with people like Arman Sarukian, who I'm not a fan because he's talking shit about Poirier, but I can't deny the guy's ability either. There's a couple of people out there. I mean, we'll get to him, but Ludovic Klein impressed the shit out of me last weekend, but we'll get there. Ultimately, I think Islam looked very human. He faded quite a bit. The fact that Poirier stuffed as many takedowns as he did when he is notoriously bad at stuffing takedowns, it's like, this does not bode well. Yeah, man, I loved it. I took Islam by sub, but then I put a little sprinkle on Poirier, so I had both sides covered. Of course, my heart was on Poirier all day long, but you just gotta protect the wallet. So good performance by Islam. I'd say probably the biggest thing that impressed me was his striking throughout the fight. But that's also what everyone says about Islam, is that he has the better striking of him and Khabib. But there are moments where he looked very human, whereas when you look back at Khabib's career, I don't think he's going to be fighting the same people, like the same level that Islam is going to be finding himself against. But also there were basically no moments where he ever looked human. So that's about all I got on that one. Bummed me out for Poirier, but if you're going to go out, there's not a much better performance that you could leave the octagon with, aside from maybe getting the W at the end. And it was just, this was a hopeless battle. And people forget, like in the Rocky movie, this was the Rocky movie, and people forget in the first movie he lost. He lost to Apollo Creed, and it was a close fight. It was a knockdown, drag-out fight. This was literally Rocky and MMA. Like, it was as close as you could possibly get. He even went and hugged his wife at the end. He was screaming Adrian, sort of, kind of. It was literally The Rock. I haven't seen people talk about this online either, and it's like, how are people not making this connection? Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm way too into movies, but I don't know. I don't get how people don't. It literally played out exactly like Rocky. No, that's it for me. That's all I got on that one, boy.
I love it, brother. I love the Rocky comparison.
You gotta have the Rocky theme on lock and just ready to go whenever someone references Rocky.
Mandatory, especially for our boy Dustin. We're talking about legends right now. Even though Rocky is a metaphorical, a non-fictional legend, Dustin's real life, as real as it gets. He's a lean fighting machine. Okay,
he's that guy.
He's that guy. He is him. He is Himothy. Okay, he is Hemi Neutron. And we're gonna miss him, man. To your point, I mean, I got my shot poured here. I know my fellow co-host MMAnomaly will take one here with us. Mad Max, no pressure, brother. You go ahead and you keep on keeping on. I don't know if it'll fit through that mask anyways. I digress. Yeah, man, it's a hell of a career. I mean, he's an absolute legend. And what a way to go out, right? I mean, I think the couple stats that stood out to me from this fight, and to compliment our boy Dustin Poirier, able to land over 100 strikes on our boy Islam. Nobody that had that on their bingo card, but I had on my underdogs card. I hit the over, baby. Come on now. He's going to put some leather on him. We knew that. And then he made Islam go 5 for 16. Okay, that is 1/3. That's like less than 33% takedown rate. Okay, it's probably the lowest I would assume Islam's ever had in his historic career. So you got that in the books as well, Dustin. So again, all things considered, didn't end the way you wanted. And I think, frankly, we would have been in kind of an interesting spot if he would have won, because how long of a reign would he have wanted? He kind of had 1 foot in, 1 foot out. To Mad Max's point, I think it was the perfect scenario of a send-off is, hey, Rocky won. Like, you weren't even supposed to be here, right? I wasn't even supposed to be at the dance. But, yeah, here I am, extended you, making you look human. And he gave us probably the most iconic photo that I'm hopefully going to hang behind me at some point here. That just perfectly captures everything about Dustin as a fighter, that moment, and what it means to bleed your own blood. So, cheers to Dustin, man. Legend, Hall of Famer, first ballot. And MMAnomaly mentioned he does have some options. He can go coach, but I think he can even be in the booth. I think he can be like commentating.
He could definitely be in the commentary booth.
He'd be fantastic at that as well. So cheers to whatever endeavor he wants to do.
Cheers to Dustin Poirier. A quote that he said that I love very much is, adversity introduces a man to himself, and he's a man that's been introduced to himself many, many times.
Damn.
Cheers to that.
Diamond.
I didn't even really consider the commentary angle there. That'd be interesting. I'd like to see him at least give, they'll give him test events, certain fighters, just to see how they do. They ought to throw him on there for one.
He can replace Chiesa or one of those guys, even for the lead up. Like, I think he's done some of those already.
I mean, he's
great there, but yeah, maybe like
he's got a similar voice to Joban too. Like, Joban does a good job with it.
Yeah, and
they have that same Louisiana accent.
They do, and I'm sure, like, in terms of, well, they'll probably have to pay him, but in terms of like, I don't even know, viewer rating or just like star power, I guess. Like, Dustin is as good as it gets.
People would want to listen to him.
You can't get better than that. Yeah, that's like A-list. So he'd be fantastic. So well-spoken, so knowledgeable. And he's got that swag, too. He's not just like a robot. It's like, you're getting a real dude up there. So
100%. 100%. So, folks, I thought about queuing up the sad music, but I changed my mind on it, right? It doesn't call for sad music. That's why I played the Rocky victory music before I even played the Rocky fight music, because this felt like a win. No matter what, it felt like a win. He said it himself the best, and then we're going to move into this next fight card. I promise we'll get off this. But like, I grew up in Louisiana for the most part, and I have family in Lafayette. A lot of family in Lafayette, actually. My aunts, my uncles, etc., my cousins. Too many cousins. And he said it himself. Someone from Lafayette is not supposed to have made it to where he's made it to. So win or lose or draw on that given night, he's already won. So felt like a victory walking in, felt like a victory walking out. Everything from our start to our stay in Jersey was beautiful, felt poetic. We walked into our hotel that I randomly booked because it's a hotel that like Mary stayed at as a kid, or the same name. and they had won the Diamond Award. Like, it's the first thing I saw on the wall. Like, again, everything felt fucking poetic. So yeah, everything just felt perfect, man. And we're gonna move right on into this last card, UFC Louisville, which I know is spelled Louisville or Louisville, but I've heard on numerous occasions that the only way to get any respect when you say it is to say it as if you have a mouthful of food. So UFC Louisville is what took place this past Saturday. Nice.
Spot on. Your boys from Slaughters, Kentucky. I can tell you that's exactly how they say it. So
let's go, baby.
Love it. That's dope.
I try to get the names right, whether it's a fighter or a city. Like, having lived in a city like Natchitoches, New Natchitoches, Louisiana, which is spelled Natchitoches, you know, you don't want to be that guy. So we try and get the names right. I appreciate the vote of confidence there, and for tooting my horn. Thanks, Mad Max. We're going to go ahead and jump into the elephant in the room, though, because, you know, not everything that glitters is gold, and not all things that happen are good things. So we're going to go ahead and talk about that elephant now. That elephant in the room is the judging of mixed martial arts. And this first fight, Rayan Dos Santos coming in against the very first Indian female fighter in the UFC, Pooja Tomar. I'm sure everybody remembers the big push we got whenever we got the first two Indian guys in UFC. I believe they're brothers. Big push. One of them looked really, really good. Gassed out, lost his fight. The other one looked really good and actually won his fight. This chick, Pooja, you can tell they really wanted her to win her fight. She came in here 8-4. I mean, I thought that she lost the fight. Maybe I'll have to go back and rewatch it. But unless someone wants to talk me off the ledge, I don't want to rewatch this fight. If I'm being honest with you folks. I thought it was fairly clear cut. I thought Pooja lost. Unless Mad Max had a hedge on her, then fucking Pooja crushed. She killed it. Great job, Pooja. Big fan. Big fan. Did I say elephant in the room? I meant tiger in the room. Fucking Indian queen, dog. Mad Max, what did you think of this fight?
I agree I thought Ryan also won. She landed so close in strikes, in total count and in significant strikes, and I thought hers were doing significantly more damage. Like, there were multiple moments where Pooja kind of looked like she was hurt. Now, of course, Ryan didn't get any takedowns, but she at least was trying them. Pooja didn't try any, so it's like, all right, striking's very close. One person was also going for takedowns and was doing more damage. Seemed like a no-brainer. I did the typical women's decision hedges on basically anything but a title fight, and it paid off this night pretty big. Pooja was a plus 400 underdog at decision, so I scooped that one up. It was plus 150 by decision and plus 400 by decision, so you put half a unit on both, and you come out quite a bit ahead. So I'm not mad at the decision. I just don't think it makes any sense. Like, as a person who won money on the fight, I can honestly say, like, I didn't think she won the fight. But I agree. I think they wanted an Indian fighter to win, to finally get a W there. And it very much seemed like they were pushing this girl pretty hard, maybe harder than they should have. It's funny who gets opportunities in this business and who doesn't, sometimes. Who doesn't get the push from the machine. But either way, that's another subject for another day. Nano, what did you take on it?
Yeah, brother. Similar takeaways as well. I think I was looking at it as Dos Santos was landing the heavier shots, and I was equally surprised as at the judges' cards and how the verdict ended up going. I mean, half of me was excited for our girl Pooja Tomar. I don't want to take too much away from it. Like, first Indian fighter, she got a win. She's really excited. It's a big deal. Shout out my ex-roommate Mohit, Mo for show. You're currently living in Mumbai, India. I'm sure, again, there's a whole country that we'd love to get on board here in the UFC and continue to see more stars or more fighters, more talent come from that part of the world. But I'd be remiss to say that, yeah, personally, I thought Rihanna did enough to win. Thought she looked good and was commanding the fight. I mean, I'm looking at the numbers. Like, I mean, I guess like they're close. I mean, I guess actually Puja did technically land more strikes and stuffed some of all of Rihanna's, all 3 of the takedowns. But MMAnomaly, I mean, what do you think, brother? Were we misled here, or were you like the one judge and like your name suggests here? Were you also maybe seeing it from that angle?
Yeah, you can call me the odd man out. You can definitely call me the anomaly in this one. I thought the judges got it wrong. I thought Puja did not do enough to win. As Mad Max actually eloquently said there on his end, Puja didn't shoot a single takedown attempt. Her opponent didn't land one, but at least she was attempting. And also, like, when we're talking about a striking differential of 10, like 15 max, and again, like we really need to reevaluate kind of what the definition of a significant strike is. Because, like Mad Max, if I punch you in the face right now and your face doesn't move back, but I don't know, maybe I daze you and you have a hell of a good poker face. Your knees don't go in like you got to take a piss, but I dazed you. And then you hit me 3 times in the face. Maybe you've got heavy hands, but I've got a hell of a chin and I'm not even getting hurt by these, right? You just landed 3 significant strikes. I landed 1. I did more damage. You have more lasting damage. You're going to go to the corner and be like, wow, that fucking redneck hits like a goddamn tank, huh? But you're winning the fight. Because you're outlanding me, and maybe your punches are moving my head back because I was off balance like Kevin Holland was, right? Like, there's just a number of different things that can go into it and factor into it being a significant strike when it's not, in fact, a significant strike. So if you ask me who landed more significant strikes, watching that fight, I would say Ryan landed like 30 more significant strikes than Puja, based on what I saw as like someone who's trained and someone who watches this for fucking 20 years now. Like, the watching part. I've trained for less than 20 years, obviously, but but still, like, someone who understands what they're absorbing, right? And I don't understand how they gave that to Puja when it's within 10 to 15 strikes. And again, like, we're talking significant strikes here, like a 10 strike differential. You got to look at control time, whether it's pacing, like walking forward, who was actually leading the dance, who was initiating the striking exchanges. I mean, I would say Ryan was initiating more often than not across the entirety of this fight. So again, thought she did enough to win. Not going to play matchmaker for Puja. I think she's getting the rub. I think she's getting the push, and I don't know if it's warranted. But she's from the right place, so good for her. And we'll go ahead and move into the next one. We're going to talk about Cody the Spartan Stamen coming in against Taylor Lapoulis. Nano, did Taylor Lapoulis impress you? Did he catch you off guard? Were you banking on the Spartan?
I mean, man, I'm definitely more familiar with the Spartan Cody Stamen. Definitely a staple in the UFC that I've grown to know and appreciate, and I'd say I'm a fan of his. And I do, at least did think that the wrestling is typically that neutralizer. It's typically something that you can rely on, you can fall back on, and you can nullify most offensive attacks coming from your opponent. But I think we found out, y'all. It was like a science test, and I think we found out that 9-inch reach disadvantage. Frankly, just when you're on the same playing field, there's all the other skills. It's just hard to get around, right? It was hard to get around. Taylor Lapoulis impressed me, man, in terms of his slick and craftiness on his feet. Just his ability to control, use that length, like literally like grab Cody's hands, get him to start thinking and getting frustrated and get outside of his game plan. It was really impressive to me. I didn't expect that. No, to answer your question, I thought the Spartan, as his name suggests, was going to be able to go in to find a way to win the war. But he lost every single battle, man. Lost in a lot of different ways. I was going to mention in terms of the takedowns or just on the feet, everything. He wasn't able to really catch his stride. And again, it's because Taylor Lapoulis, his offensive prowess and that range is just really, really hard to deal with. And Coach Eric Nixick in Stamen's corner, giving him everything he could, letting him know, hey, you got to go out there. You got to, a little bit of desperado here in round 3. You saw a little bit of it, but just simply too late, too little, too late. But Taylor Lapilus is legit, man. France, all these Frenchmen are coming in here, man. Like you said, Ricky Bobby and us out here just breaking our arms, freaking stealing our women, stealing our cars. What the hell's going on here? But all jokes aside, man, they're cooking. France is cooking something. I don't know what it is, but something good.
They're cooking Americans lately in the UFC.
They are cooking us right now. Gosh darn it. What do you think, Matt Max? Anything else stood out to you on that one?
No, I think you guys covered it pretty well. I just thought Stamen would be able to get him down. The ability to stay on his feet and recover and some of the scrambles, stuff like that really impressed me. I thought Stamen would get it done. He's been kind of a little bit all over the place. It seems like the best performance he ever had is maybe behind him. So I don't know. I don't know what's next for Stamen. Unfortunately, as far as his career goes, it's kind of like a crossroads point, but full steam ahead on Lapilus. Let's give him another big test and see how he does. Sink or swim type shit. I think he did good on this one, though.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. I mean, great match in the bantamweight division here. Cody Stamen, I definitely thought was going to be able to do a little bit more. Low sense of gravity, I thought would serve him well going into this matchup, even with the reach deficit, as Nano pointed out, 9 inches. My God, dude. Like, wow. That's just a lot. A 9-inch reach deficit in a fight is just world breaker stuff. And we saw it. It's one thing when you have it. It's another thing when you know how to use it. And my goodness, Lapilus, he's a stud. He knows how to use it. So this guy is an absolute beast. I'd like to see him break into the top 15. I don't know if it's maybe too early to have that chat, but I mean, he just beat Cody the Spartan Stamen, and he made it look pretty masterful. Cody did manage to get one takedown after attempting multiple throughout the fight. He managed to land 1 of 6, and he got 1 of 3 in his last round. He was able to get almost 2 full minutes of control time out of that, which served him well. But even in doing so, managing to control 2 minutes out of a 5-minute round, he was still outlanded 35-15 on significant strikes and 37-18 on total strikes. So I think Mad Max was right. Maybe his best performances might be behind him. He's on the wrong side of Father Time, and his skills seem to have plateaued to an extent. And these guys that he's fighting, they're so damn good. Bantamweight watching bantamweight and flyweight is like watching an episode of Dragon Ball Z. You'd just as well be watching a couple of Saiyan children out there because they're just moving at super speed. Hard to keep up. Got to watch it on like 0.75 speed there, you know? So these scrambles are incredible. These strikes are incredible. Seeing somebody that's got that 9-inch reach advantage on somebody like a Cody, the Spartan Stamen, and Taylor Lapilus, brilliant to see. Seeing him utilize it in such a masterful way, even more brilliant to see. I think he'd match up pretty well against a Jonathan Martinez. Jonathan Martinez coming off that big loss to Jose Aldo, needing to prove himself a little bit. Taylor Lapilus on the way up, the other man on the way down. What do you think, guys? You have a name on the tip of your tongue for the guy?
Man, I don't think I do. I mean, maybe it's too early to tell. Bantamweight division is absolutely stocked. But I wouldn't be mad to see him get a little bit of that special treatment to get, launched up there a little bit. If it's not top 15, maybe top 25, maybe it's somebody that is hanging around that also deserves that same recognition, because he's a little bit new on the scene. But I mean, hey man, when you keep putting together good performances like that and you beat a staple in the division, right? As Mad Max used the coin term earlier, quote unquote, maybe gatekeeper or just a litmus test. Maybe that's a better way to put it. This is a true litmus test that he deserves to be a legit contender in the division. No one comes to mind though. I mean, I say top 25 though. I like it. The higher the better. But to say top 15 at this point, I think I need to see another win in a good dominant fashion.
I think that's fair. It's fair. You don't want to throw him too far into the deep end, in a division as stacked as bantamweight is. My thought was Pedro Munoz, but him and Jonathan Martinez are literally right next to each other. So both of those make sense. It's the very, outcrops of the top 15. It's like
that was the other name on my list, just so you know.
Hell yeah.
I literally had the one, and then I had Pedro Munoz ?
I think the Munoz one makes a lot of sense, especially Munoz being a little bit little bit older, a little more mileage on him, but honestly, I would go a hair outside of the top 15. I'd shoot maybe like 17, 18, somewhere around there. Just give him one more test just outside of the top 15 and then full steam ahead. That's kind of what I was thinking.
All right. So we are going to go ahead and jump into the next one here. Let's see. Boom. What is the next fight? All right. I think we might actually skip through some of these. I don't know. Let's see. We have Denise Gomes, which I got to ask you something real quick before we even jump forward here, Nano. When you were watching Denise Gomes fight, did you recognize her at all?
I recognize the name, but the platinum hair.
Okay. I recognized the name, didn't recognize the platinum hair, and then when I watched her fight with the dark brown hair shaved like that, didn't recognize her at all. Me and Mare were like 2/3 of the way through the fight, and she's like, this girl looks familiar, but I don't think I've ever seen her fight. And so I looked up, I literally like typed in Denise Gomes on Google, and she had like the long hair. She looks entirely different.
I mean, and not to be, I say this with all due respect.
And I am saying with all due respect.
And I mean, with all due respect, can't emphasize that enough on the respect part. But she looks like she's part of that Shoot the Box crew. It looks like
Brother,
Carlos
with
Oliveira
the platinum
and all
hair picture, yes.
I mean, and wearing
With the
yellow,
picture on the UFC.com, yeah.
Up in Brazil, I mean,
She might. Does she not train how to shoot the bucks?
one doubt it. Maybe that's where the camp and the motivation came from with the platinum hairdo. But
Hold on. Now I'm very, very confused and concerned. Does she actually train at Shoot the Bucks?
I think she's a barber as well, as I'm looking on her Instagram.
She trains at Piranha Valley Tudo, so she's definitely fucked around with those Shoot the Box guys. I guarantee it.
Yeah. Yeah, she
trains at an old school Valley Tudo gym, bro.
Yeah, she's a barber as well, so she
rumor has it she actually cut her own hair.
I mean, that fade's pretty clean. If she did that by herself, then I'm impressed.
No, she did look really good out there over Eduardo Maura. We won't spend a lot of time on this match. I don't mind taking the lead on this one, and then we can move forward. Real quick, I'll just say Denise Gomez looked really good. Really good. She outlasted her opponent in every way, shape, and form of the word. And she looked damn good doing it, right? She was in there against a bigger, stronger, longer opponent. And what happened? She ended up doing extremely well against her. She bled the gas tank dry and then just fucking crushed it. Yash, my guy in the chat. What's up, brother? How we doing? Oh, man. Love to see you in here, man. As he says, I have no clue what you guys are talking about, but wanted to say hi. Brother, we're glad you did. We're glad you did. And if you stick around long enough, you'll probably learn what we're talking about, my friend. Denise Gomes looked really, really good in there. And again, she was going in there against a big, strong woman who missed weight, mind you. Lost 20% of her purse as well, you know what I'm saying? Well deserved. I still think there's a big problem with that and that people should be fined much more when it comes to purses being deducted for those weight losses or weight misses, I should say. But yeah, I thought Denise Gomez did exactly what she needed to do. Bled the gas tank dry. Looked really good. Not sure if you guys want to sprinkle anything on top of this one. Anything excites you about this fight? Do you have a name on the tip of your tongue for Denise?
Wop, wop, wop.
It's a no for me, dog.
You are muted, Mad Max. You are muted. You hit the double mute again.
For fuck's sake.
We love to see it.
Yeah, you know, man, I'm exhausted over here. Women's decision hedges paid again, plus 400 on Gomes. It was sick. That's about all I got at the end.
Love to see it. Love to see it. As long as you made money, that's all you need. Moving into the next one, we had John Castaneda versus Daniel Marcos. And moving into the next one, we had Andrea KGB Lee coming in against Montaña de la Rosa. Now, first restaurant job I ever worked was with Andrea KGB Lee back in Louisiana. Shout out Bossier City. We'll hit the air horn again. Why not? I'm going to be honest with you guys. I thought this was a pretty solid fight for her. I know she didn't get it done. I know that Montana De La Rosa ended up getting the win here, but I digress. I thought this was a fairly close fight, and maybe there's a bit of bias. I want the honest opinion here. I want you guys to talk me off a ledge if I'm wrong. I thought Andrea won. I thought obviously she didn't land any takedowns, but the reversals, she got the same amount of control time as her opponent, and she outlanded her on total and significant strikes. I haven't gone back and rewatched the fight. Again, I know there might be a little bit of bias. Which one of you guys wants to talk me off a ledge here?
Have at it, Nano.
Man, I think she was winning those first. I think she won that first round, definitely. I think she won the first round. The second round is maybe a toss-up. It was very, very close in terms of the numbers, and you can make a case either way. But I think the third round, she stole the show. She being Montana, with her takedowns, with just showing the well-rounded capabilities, still having a lot of gas tank, being able to outstrike Andrea KGB Lee. And sometimes like that in like the eyes of the judges and just I'll just chalk it up to recency bias, where you see someone like that trending the right direction at the end of the fight and it was close the first two rounds, you may just give them that nod. And that's what feels like it might have happened. Again, this was a wonky one. Judges have been a little inconsistent, unfortunately. We saw it in 302. We're seeing it again here. Led the card off. Weird. Another split decision, and what felt like could have been the other way. It was split. So, I mean, you are not necessarily wrong in feeling that she won. I think one of the judges agreed with you. Man, again, maybe it's the homer in me. So I'm right there on the ledge with you, thinking like she had it. What did we miss in here? But all things considered, I think maybe just the well-rounded game and those takedowns. We know those, especially at the end there. That's kind of the icing on the cake, we can call it. And in Mad Max, maybe you could elaborate there from a grappling perspective. But being able to do that, if the striking is kind of nullified, I mean, I guess you got to judge it somehow, right? You got to split those hairs. What stood out to you?
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's got to have some kind of value. Otherwise, why are we calling it mixed martial arts? What's the incentive to do it at all if it has no value or anything? Actually, I think you pretty well summarized it almost perfectly there. It was like a round one was, I felt like, fairly clear for Andrea Lee. Round 3 was fairly clear for Montana. And then round 2 was the one where it gets a little weird. It's like, all right, what do we got here? I just have always thought that Andrea Lee has approximately zero power behind all of her punches. And Montana actually has a little bit of pop. Not a ton, but I would say a little bit more than Andrea Lee. I wasn't mad at the decision. This was at the point where I had kind of tuned out and started playing some Sea of Thieves. So wasn't necessarily mad at the decision. I expected Montana to win, though, when they were reading it. Just from what I was watching, I thought that that's the way it was going to go. And yet again, Montana was the bigger of the two decisions. So it was like all of the bigger underdog decisions won. She was a plus 180 by decision. So it was a plus 400, and a plus 180 on the decision hedges that paid out pretty well on Saturday. That's about all I took away from it.
Love it when you make money, Mad Max. We'll go ahead and move into the next one. I don't really have a name on the tip of my tongue for Montana De La Rosa. All I can say is great performance for her. It was a very, very close fight. Very, very hard fought fight for both women. I can't disagree with you when you say that Andrea KGB Lee does not have a ton of power behind her strikes. Her kicks, I will say, are much nastier than her punches. When she throws those body kicks specifically, I feel like they do damage. She just doesn't let them go as much as she possibly should. Montana De La Rosa, though, has power in both hands, and it shows. Not a ton, right? She's not like Jessica Andrade or anything out there, anything crazy, but when she throws, it does appear to hurt the women that it lands on. So we will go ahead and jump into the next fight here, unless you guys have a name on the tip of your tongue for Montana De La Rosa. Fantastic. Yeah. Moving on, we have Brad Katona coming in against Jesse Butler, and we happen to have MadMaxMeridian, who does one of the best Brad Katona impressions that you'll ever see. Mad Max is actually going to start off this breakdown. He's going to cue up that Brad Katona breakdown, and me and Nano, in the meantime, the turkey himself, we're going to pour up another shot for the homies in the chat. Yash, Tien, Johnny. I know all three of you fuckers drink, so definitely pour something up. And cheers to screen with us. Mad Max, let's hear it, Katona.
Hell yeah. So I watched Ultimate Fighter, and after listening to Brad Katona say his own name 42 different times, it just stuck in my head. He kind of does like a Brad Katona is basically exactly what he sounds like when he does it. But for as much as I want to make fun of how the guy says his own name and says everything, I can't pick him right. I picked him in his last fight. He lost. I picked against him in this fight, and then he goes out there, catches a kick, kind of proceeds to ragdoll the shit out of Jesse Butler. Fairly one-way traffic. I thought he would maybe fade, and then that's when Butler would start to turn it around. It wasn't really the case. Like, he may have slowed down a little bit, but he was pretty damn dominant, and it shows in the numbers. 148 total strikes to 32, 68 significant strikes to 30, and maybe most importantly for this fight, it was 3 takedowns to none, and that was like the big deciding factor. That was where he was able to establish control and kind of dictate where the fight took place. So good to see Katona, I guess, get it together and get it done. He's not the most likable dude on planet Earth, but he likes himself, and I guess that's what matters. Brad Katona.
Brad Katona. He did say his own name like at least 42 times that season.
At this point, he may have only actually said it once, and I've just built it in my head up to that many times.
I swear, I feel like I heard him say his name a ton of times this last season. Like the second season he was on Tough, right?
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not here to play their game. I'm here to be the best Brad Katona I can be. I'm not here for Team McGregor or Team Chandler. I'm here for Team Brad Katona.
Exactly. He said that shit a lot, and somewhere along the way, I've turned him into Matt Damon from Team America in my head.
Matt Damon!
Yeah, that's basically what I've turned him into. I don't know how that happened, but
Great reference.
it's the way she goes, boys. It's the way she goes.
Oh my god, dude. The Matt Damon reference from Team America. That's
he's a
all-time.
cringy one, but he's a hell of a fighter.
All time.
For all
Matt
the
Damon?
cringe he
Matt
has.
Damon?
That boy can scrap. I watched
we
him
went to the same place.
in Goodwill
I was
Hunting.
like-
He
I was
beats
like,
the
I mean,
shit out of
Jason-
somebody.
That knockout in Jason Bourne is probably one of the cleanest knockouts I've ever seen
Yeah,
in
we are
cinema.
talking about
In the
Jason
desert
Bourne.
where he's like, he just hooks that guy, and I'm like, yeah, if he wasn't an actor, he would have been a hooker. You know what I'm saying? That was not.
Jesus Christ, that's Jason Bourne.
Jesus Christ, that's Jason Bourne. Cheers to the homies. Booms.
To the crew.
The Blamskis.
Oh, shit. He's pouring one up, too, he said. I guess you probably already saw that, huh? Pouring one up. Attaboy.
We doing it.
We ride. So, yeah, I mean, Brad Katona, he's very much like Charles Radke for me, where I don't always bet on his fights, but when I do, I get it wrong. I'm with you, man. But this time I definitely did bet on Brad Katona. I thought he was going to get it done. I did have a little side bet on Jesse Butler. I think I broke even on that one, but I digress. Katona looked really good out there, man. He outlanded him by a moderate amount. Right? It was only 32 to 148. Just moderate amount. He outlanded him. That was a joke. That was a joke, you guys. Nothing? All right. Moving on. So
I made the eyes emoji.
you literally did do the eyes emoji. It was perfect. I seen it. I was watching. So yeah, Katona landed a lot more strikes. And he landed more than 2-1 on significant strikes to Jesse Butler. Also went 100% 3 for 3 on takedowns over Jesse Butler. I mean, if we're comparing MMA to NBA, I'll just say that Jesse Butler is no Jimmy Butler. Okay. And that's from someone who doesn't watch basketball. So I hope you basketball viewers are impressed. Lightweight by my little joke on the fly there. So Brad Katona, again, looked really good. His striking actually impressed me a lot on the feet. Was probably the biggest takeaway for me. I thought he was going to be grappling the entirety of the fight. But the distance distance control was really nice. Anything impress you or stand out to you specifically, Nano, about this fight? I know you're a big Brad Katona fan.
Brad Katona. Yeah, no, I mean, it's...
You got it, too.
No, I mean, nothing stood out. It was a Brad Katona fight. It's like every time he fights, it's a similar path. He has a great way of controlling the narrative and getting in the driver's seat when it comes to the fight and making it his style. I mean, that's a skill, legit. I mean, not trying to knock him. He can be cringe all he wants, but dude's legit. I don't have any names for him. Again, the bantamweight division is stacked, but coming off the Ultimate Fighter and coming off, back to back, stringing together good performance after good performance. I mean, who's to say he doesn't deserve a top 15 shot, man? He ain't getting any younger, right? I mean, a Pedro Munoz, similar style, similar kind of build. That can be a fun one. I know we've been throwing his name around a lot lately, but if not him, I mean, heck, give him my boy Mario Batista. Find out Arizona. Come on, that'd be a fun one. That's two very high level fighters there.
That'd be a very good one. I don't hate making him fight Taylor Lapulus that we were just talking about. It's like that kind of makes sense. Be a decent test.
I like that.
That's the one I like. I like Taylor Lapulus in this one. I like Taylor Lapulus versus Brad Katona. I think both of them are at the same kind of area in their career. I know Lapulus is far newer to the UFC picture, but look at their careers. He's got a lot more fights, and he's done a lot. He looks really fucking good too. I think he'd be a problem for Brad Katona. I think he'd be really long for Brad Katona. The way that he fights, you know what I'm saying? Eyebrows. My eyebrows are much thinner, so it doesn't convey as good on camera as not as. Oh boy. Oh boy. So moving into the next fight, we had Charles Ratchke, aka one of my favorite nicknames in the entirety of the UFC, Chuck Buffalo, coming in against Carlos Prates. Charles outlanded him 2-1 on total strikes. Carlos Prates comes out there and gets the knockout, though. Basically flips the script a la Hawk in Cobra Kai season 1. It was nice. It was nice. I didn't expect it. I think on like the one parlay I put in, I had Charles Ratchke on there, so that fucking sucks, but it is what it is. Any thoughts on this fight before we move into the next one?
No, I mean, hell of a shot that our boy Carlos Prates landed on Charles Ratchke. Did not expect
Chuck Buffalo.
Yeah, on our boy Chuck Buffalo. And I think the only thing that stood out with Carlos Prates is I think he needs to change his name to Stogie or Sig, because apparently he likes to smoke a heater, aka a cigarette, prior to fighting or after trading a dart. Maybe it's a Carlos Dart Prates. That actually sounds kind of cool. Double meaning there. I like that. But he's a cig smoker, so I guess that's don't do drugs, kids.
I mean, after that shot, I would probably call myself the Buffalo Slayer. I don't know, call me crazy. Moving into the next one, we had Thiago Moises versus Ludovic Klein. I know Mad Max definitely doesn't want to talk about this guy.
Ludovic Klein, my God. This whole thing fucked me up. This is another dude who I just cannot get right. I went Thiago Moises. I'm like, oh, surely Ludovic Klein's been taken down multiple times in the past. He's been out-grappled by multiple people. Surely Thiago Moises will be able to do the same thing. And instead, Ludovic Klein showed some of the best hips I've seen in a hot minute. There was a couple points, too, where Thiago had the takedown, and Ludovic, just hips from hell, was able to, power.
I think you unplugged your mic. I think he unplugged his mic. He got so excited about those hips.
Yeah, I hipped my own mic. All I said was I feel sorry for his wife and left it at that. So Ludovic Klein's got hips. The man's a beast. Call him Shakira. The hips don't lie. Yeah, for real. Thiago was hurt multiple times throughout the fight, and you got to give him some credit for hanging in there because he got popped multiple times by Klein. But I really thought he was going to get the takedowns here. I thought this was like a layup fight. This was one I was way off on. Watching, I'm like, man, Thiago's going to kind of ragdoll this guy. And instead, Klein said, check this out. I've been working. So, good for him. Good for him.
Happens to the best of us, Mad Max. You know, you think it's going to be a layup fight, but sometimes it turns out to be a bit of a lay-down fight. Right? No? Come on.
Well, apparently not in this one. Couldn't get him to lay down.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, he did go 0 for 8. But hey, Ludovic Klein, the moment he wanted our guy Tiago to lay down, it happened. 1 for 1. He just didn't engage a ton with it because he's like, I'd rather just stand with you and beat you up on the feet, which he did. He did. Nano, did you watch this fight? What were your thoughts on this fight? Tiago Moises.
I mean, I thought Thiago Moises was going to be more of a challenge for our boy Ludovic Klein, but man, I like the word litmus test or kind of gauging skills, and this was another one, right? Thiago Moises is someone we've seen in the UFC octagon for quite some time, has fought some of the who's, the what's, the he's, or they's, I suppose, but Ludovic Klein, man, just looks the part, looks like a strong individual, has very, very good skills, and extremely well-rounded. I don't have much more to say other than he just went out there and put a good whooping on our boy Tiago. So he was able to do something like that to someone like Tiago. The sky's the limit for this guy. I mean, man, in the lightweight division, another stacked one, as they all are, obviously. Don't think he's ready for the top 15, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's 1 or 2 fights away. I mean, he's that good. I mean, to be honest, do I think he could beat Bobby Green? Freaking probably. To be honest, probably. But is he going to get that shot? I don't think so. I think he's got to do a little bit more. But I like what I see from him, man. It's just like, just does everything well. I don't know. He doesn't have any downsides in my book. I mean, obviously, I'm sure he does, but man, hard to find any chinks in that armor of Ludovic Klein. Like what I'm seeing. Dude's stud.
I mean, I don't really have a ton to add that you guys haven't already said. I'll be honest with you. If I had to describe Ludovic Klein, from what I saw in this fight at least, I would say he's like a jack of all trades, master of none. He does everything really good. Like really good fundamentals, really good grappling, really good scrambling, really good striking, really good stand-up, really good grappling negation. But I don't think he's like, and like good power, good speed, good cardio. But I don't think that he's like supremely great at any one realm. Like, I wouldn't say that he's the greatest submission artist. I wouldn't say that he's got the greatest grappling or the cleanest sweeps or transitions. I wouldn't say that he's got the cleanest jab in the world, but his jab is efficient. It looked really fucking good on Saturday. I'd watch it all goddamn day, landing like that. I wouldn't say he's got the strongest hook in the world, but it lands. It looks good when it does. He times it nice. So I don't think he needs to be the best at things, right? Like, I think it's good to be a jack of all trades and master of none when it comes to MMA, because a jack of all trades is going to be someone that's very well adapted to anybody else that they're going in there against. And Mad Max, I agree. Jacked of all trades. Dude's biceps were nuts. Made me want to go to the goddamn gym every day this week. So appreciate you. Thanks, Ludovic. Any name on the tip of your tongue for this young man, Mad Max?
Now that Nano said Bobby Green, I'm sold on it. I like it. Make it happen. Bobby Green, I thought RDA, but now that he said he's going to move up and probably stay up at welterweight,
yeah, it's
like, all right, never mind. But the Bobby Green one makes sense. Jalen Turner isn't bad either. But I'm sold on Bobby Green. Nano sold me. That's that salesman in him. That boy.
Yeah, I didn't write anything down. I like Bobby Green, though. He sold me on that as soon as he started talking about it. He's like, do I think he can beat Bobby Green? I'm like, light bulb. Bobby Green, that's I can get down with that.
It felt right. Just speaking it from the heart. That's it. Not trying to sell you.
From your lips to God's ears, my friend.
That's it, brother. Exactly. Direct line.
We love it, man. We love it. So moving to the main card, guys. We're gonna go ahead and get through this one. Punahele Soriano coming in against Miguel Baeza, gets it done via decision. I don't think one-way traffic is even a good enough term for this one. 331-22. That's a real stat. That's an actual real stat. 331-22. How was the fight not stopped? I'm just going to say it one more time. 331-22. Am I reading this wrong? Did I watch did I watch a movie, or it felt like a bad dream, this fight? Don't need to spend a ton of time on it. Just curious what you guys thought.
I don't understand how it wasn't stopped compared to the fight that was prematurely stopped that we're going to get to later. But the heel hook as a grappler frustrated the ever-loving fuck out of me. I don't know why he held on to it as long as he did, except for perhaps the punches in the face jarred something loose and he just wasn't there all the way, and then therefore became dogged in his pursuit of it and just wouldn't let it go. Because I feel like almost any normal person would abandon ship, or at least you fucking should abandon ship. So this one actually kind of frustrated me watching it. I was rooting for Soriano, and I was still frustrated watching it for Beza. I was just like, dude, what are you doing? And just sat there and ate punches over and over and over again. Now I question old Pillow Hands Punahele, because it's like, bro, you landed 331 strikes and you couldn't put this guy away. Like, what's going on here? But I guess it was fun to watch. It was weird. It was perplexing. It was everything under the sun, in that realm. It was just fucking weird. But I enjoyed watching him get the shit punched out of him. But all I got.
Yeah, well, absolutely wild. I mean, 184 strikes just in the third round. Not even the first, not the second, the third of 3. Bonkers. And yeah, to your point, I mean, hanging on there just never seems like a good recipe. And I wonder what happens. I mean, I've been in a handful of scuffles, but nothing in that kind of realm. So I can't speak from personal experience, but I can imagine maybe it's a part of it's like, I almost felt it in football a little bit, and in some sports, it's like you almost kind of know, like you're not supposed to do something. If you're playing basketball, maybe it's like I know I'm not supposed to reach in and foul this guy, but a party, like if you get frustrated or you're not in the right mental space, like you make those lackadaisical errors or things like that. And I don't know, like maybe you don't see it that often in UFC. You hear sometimes, or in MMA, I should say. Not just UFC, but just in all mixed martial arts, like competitions, like you hear sometimes like, oh, he didn't show up, but it's like, okay, like, what does that mean? It's like, okay, he's flat. Okay, well, is it like he's just not responsive? Is it, yeah, like maybe like, hey, doesn't have the juice behind the punches, or, like our boy Miguel here, did he just get stuck into this weird glitch? Or to your point, maybe you do get rocked a little bit and you're just, maybe he felt like he was the homeboy was gonna tap. I mean, I don't know if you've ever been in that position, like, but to me, I'm thinking it must not be that threatening if Soriano's just sitting there and just wailing on him. So it's like, is he thinking, oh, I'm waiting for him to move, I'm gonna like shift here, or I don't know. To your point, it sounds like maybe there was no rhyme or reason behind it, but yeah, sometimes it was just a lapse of judgment or an error, or just sometimes you see those weird things happen amongst athletes in those high pressure situations. Just wasn't able to maybe the bright lights got to him or something, who knows, but that was tough to watch. I mean, oof. One-sided.
Hearing Soriano talk about it and everything, there's kind of 2 takeaways, because he was on Unfiltered earlier today. I was listening to it. It's kind of a couple things worked out in his favor. One, he's a wrestler. Generally speaking, any wrestler I've ever gone against, they're just not going to give up to most things that you'll catch other people with. They just will power through them or just let it happen, and they're just a different breed. You've heard it so many times in just firsthand experience. They generally are. 2, I don't think Punahele was 100% sure the danger that he was in there. He doesn't sound like the most experienced jiu-jitsu guy listening to him talk. So I just don't necessarily think that he was aware of the danger. And when that element is taken out of it, you don't fear what's happening to you because you don't know. And then thirdly, heel hooks are notorious for not hurting until it's too late. There's effectively no pain until your shit's already snapped. So it's like he was fine, and nothing ever progressed beyond that point. So he just hung in there and smashed him up pretty good. Is kind of my takeaway from it. Anytime I've ever been in a heel hook at practice, it's kind of one of those things. We both make eye contact. I acknowledge, like, yeah, you got me. Please don't rip my shit apart. But you can be hard-headed in tournaments and stuff with those if you're willing to risk it. And it's not, there ain't a lot of pain associated with them. Like a straight ankle lock actually hurts worse, generally speaking, and it actually has a far less chance of doing damage to you. Like, you got to be the Hulk to break someone's shin, whereas you can twist your knee getting out of the shower accidentally. Like, that shit can happen. So that's my takeaway there, not to eat up too much time.
Yeah, I think that's a solid takeaway. So yeah, I mean, Puny Haley Soriano had a lot going for him into this fight. He's very strong. He's a wrestler. He's also got fucking cannons for hands, so that doesn't hurt going into a good old fist fight. So a lot of things worked out for him. I don't have a name on the tip of my tongue for him, if I'm being completely honest. I thought he got cut, and then I think he took this fight on short notice. I could be wrong on that. But yeah, I believe he had actually gotten cut. So moving forward, it looks like you guys don't have a name on the tip of your tongue anyways. We're going to go into Julian, the Cuban Missile Crisis Marquez, a.k.a. the owner of the largest fumbled bag in the world. Could have had a Valentine and possibly date in Miley Cyrus, and he fumbled the bag. He fumbled the bag so incredibly bad. If you look at his record, it is 9-5. Since that Miley Cyrus fumbling of the bag, he is 0-3. 0-4 if you count the Miley Cyrus L. So as of right now, I would say the guy is sitting comfortably at 9-6 with that Miley Cyrus L. It's not a joke. It's real talk. It's real, guys. He came in here on Saturday against none other than Jive Turkey Nano's man crush, Zachary Reese. Calm down, Nano. He got the win already. It was a great fight, though. Really solid fight if your name is Zachary. And if your last name is Reese, great Saturday for you. If your name is Julian Marquez, better luck next time. Landed one strike, threw one strike. If you want to go home with like a positive from this, 100% accuracy. Sniper. That's, me being Optimist Prime, the good old Autobot with the optimist point of view. Nano, I know this is your man crush. I don't want to steal this time from you. Anything you want to add on Zachary Reese?
It was a short fight, so I'll keep it short and sweet. But yes, my boy Zachary Reese, a.k.a. Discounted Logan Paul. Okay, this guy's a stud. I like his skills. I like what I'm seeing. Okay, I'm crushing again. I'm back on the train. Okay, I'm back on his roster. I'm back to being a groupie. Okay, I liked it. Took care of the missile. Appreciate that. Thank you for your service. But no, man, all jokes aside, Zachary Reese, man, he looked fantastic. I mean, it was a short, quick fight. All it took was one knee and in the right place at the right time and took care of business. Love to see him get back in there as soon as possible. Get him another guy with some namesake. Give him, let's build some momentum on this guy. I think he's got a lot of great skills. He's a fun fighter. And if you could put someone away with a knee to the body like that, sky's the limit, man. So no names, but I certainly hope to see him back ASAP. I mean, that was a walk in the park. Outside of a little bit of a sore knee, he should be ready to go. What'd you think, Matt Max? Anything else that got to you?
No, man, that was well said there. There was only two fights that I thought were semi-layups on this card, and this was the other one. I was wrong on the Thiago Moises, but Zachary Reese to me is like, this dude should go out here and blast this guy. Julian Marquez, unfortunately, ain't much at this point. Full steam ahead on Zachary Reese, man. I might be right there behind you on the train. We'll see how he goes from here. Hopefully they do him right and give him progressively harder fights and don't just throw him in the deep end. But for a 20-second fight, there's not a whole lot to add to it. Well said, boys. Onward.
Moving forward, we have Bruno Ferreira coming in against Dustin Stoltzfus. I picked Bruno Ferreira in this one. He came out there and got it done in just 4 minutes and 51 seconds of round number 1. 27 strikes is all it took. That's all she wrote, folks. 24 of which were considered significant. He had one knockdown and one TKO. It was a very beautiful strike to end the match there. I thought Bruno looked as good as he's probably ever looked in there against Dustin Stoltzfus. And again, Dustin is no schlub, right? He's no slouch. 15-5. Obviously fell to 15-6 in this fight. But the man standing across from him they call him the Hulk for a reason, right? The young man has hands. Of all of his wins, do you know the percentage of them that are finishes off the top of your head? 100. 100% of them are finishes. Of his losses, do you know the percentage of them that are finishes? 100%. He does not know what a decision feels like because he's the fucking Hulk, folks. Man's got a very appropriate nickname. He went out there, hit a spinning elbow. I believe he hit it twice. Stunned him with it twice. To be able to hit a spinning back elbow, not once, but twice with that kind of accuracy, it's not good, folks. It's fucking disgusting. Like it was foul. I saw it the first time. I was like, ooh, that was really nice. Sucks it didn't work because you won't hit that again. And then he hit the usher. He's off. Watch this. And he did hit that again. He did hit that again. So, I mean, I don't know if you guys have anything else to add to that, but it was fantastic. Fantastic to see the Hulk went out there and smashed. And we love it when the Hulk goes out there and smashes, right? Nano, what you got, brother?
Yeah, I mean, again, brother, what a performance, what a freaking fight, what a spinning back fist, what a moment for our guy, Bruno Ferreira, man. Someone I think we need to be talking about, brother. I mean, this guy, he might be a star in the making. Like you said, every time he goes out there, it's fireworks, okay, whether he's winning or not. He has not sniffed a second round yet. He was close. He almost did, but in buzzer beater fashion, that spinning back fist, right flush jaw like that, I mean, wow, that was a holy shit moment, as Dana White likes to say. That's why we sign up for this sport. It's why we love it. It's why we cover it. It's why we're here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. But man, that guy Dustin Stoltzfus is a tough son of a gun. I don't think anybody could have ate half of those shots that he did, but he sat in there in the pocket. But again, that spinning back fist, man, or spinning back elbow, let me rephrase, was about as clean as I've ever seen one, right? I mean, it might be just as good, if not better, than Yuri's on Dom Reyes because, well, I just think the timing of it. No, it was like seconds left in the fight. He was already putting it on him, and the way he just like turned around and set it up was, I mean, whoa! I just keep saying that because that's what I kept saying on Saturday. It was like, holy shit! But yeah, I mean that and Yuri, best spinning back elbows. SBE.
Best spinning shit you've ever
Best
seen.
spins I've seen, brother. Best, hands down, dopest dope I've ever seen. What'd you think?
Maybe spinning that shit like a record, Max.
Like a record, baby.
I would agree, though, as far as it being one of the best spinning elbows I've ever seen. Like it looked like it landed cleaner than the Yuri one. Aside from that, I don't have a lot to add to it. Bruno was landing the bigger shots. I don't know. Did you guys see Dustin Stoltzfus's statement after the fight? I kind of felt bad for him. He said, "Not too much to say here. I strayed from the game plan at the end of the round. I feel like a fraud. I'm better than this, and I owe it to the amazing people who support me to do better. That being said, there are only so many spinning elbows to the face even my big old head can take. I've got a lot of healing to do. My face is fractured, and I have significant nerve damage. I don't know when I'll be back to training, let alone fighting." He goes on after that, but I saw that and kind of felt bad for the guy. Like, you don't want to see somebody potentially lose their career, due to the just happenstance of the sport. Like, damage is a byproduct of the sport, but you still don't want to see these guys lose their livelihoods because of it. And he seems like an all right guy, so I just saw that. That's maybe the only thing I had to add on it. Good job for Bruno. I hope Dustin heals well and can get back in there.
Yeah, that's tough, man. It is a byproduct of the sport. Unfortunately, like we cheer them on as gladiators, they take the damage of gladiators, right? It's unfortunate but true. And in this case, as you said, quick healing, sending prayers to Dustin Stoltzfus. Hopefully, the damage is not long term, right? He is a very good guy. I've seen him on a handful of podcasts. Seems like just a really really nice dude. For Bruno Ferreira, I don't have a name on the tip of my tongue for the young man, but honestly, great performance for him. He looked really, really good out there. Mad Max, doesn't sound like you have the name on the tip of your tongue for him. Nano, do you? Fantastic. Moving into the next one, we have the young man, Raul Rosas Jr., coming in against Ricky Turcios. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, I think the second biggest takeaway from this fight, aside from the fact that Raul Rosas was able to get a submission after losing most of the fight, is what was it? Chee wee wee. I don't know what that means. Apparently, it doesn't mean anything. It's just something that him and his buddy, I think he said Carlos, says to each other. And I feel like maybe they were just like hanging out, playing video games. And Carlos is like, I bet you won't say it after you win. And he's like, all right, bet. And so he's like, gee wee wee. And he did it. So good on him. But before I pass the torch, he was losing this fight. He was down 40 plus strikes, or almost 40 strikes in the fight. Ricky Tercios looked really good up until the moment that he didn't. But I digress. Those takedowns, they were endless. Like once he turned the faucet on, there was no turning it off. 4 for 7. It just felt like if the fight went 15 minutes, he was going to shoot 24 times. Mad Max, do you want to jump in here, grappling aficionado, and tell us what you thought of Raul Rosas Jr.?
Kind of. You see a little bit of development in the game, but it's still, unfortunately, largely what he's already shown, which is pretty good wrestling, but not great submissions and like actual jiu-jitsu. He scrambles pretty well, gets swept sometimes, though. Like Ricky Tercios was doing some technique shit that was actually better than what you were seeing out of Raul Rosas, and he was just reversing it on basically being a little stud. But he's a young buck. He's 19 years old. He's full of piss and vinegar. Of course, he's going to be able to explode out of positions 72 times. Because of that, the age and just his ability to hang in there, that was why we took him. I took him by decision or by sub at minus 200. I don't know, man. Ricky Tercios, while he seems to be a likable guy, does not seem to be the most physically gifted nor technically sound. Like he does some shit okay, and then you conversely, a minute later, you'll see him do something that you're just like, what was that? Like, what are you doing, dude? He reminds me a lot of like a younger Tony Ferguson, which I've seen a million people make that comparison. I'm not the first one to do it. But good for Raul. He had his back taken at one point, and old Ricky actually had an RNC semi sunk in there, and he couldn't get past the old chin there. Old Raul kept it tucked, which is, what you want to see, and I think maybe he has some genetic gifts that helped him out a little bit in that area, we'll say, to put it tactfully. Not a Habsburg chin at all. But either way, moving on. Good for Raul Rosas, young buck. We took him. Sub or decision, minus 200. We'll take it. Not bad. Good for Raul. I don't even know who really to give him next. I don't think this kid's that good. He's so young, though, that he has plenty of time to develop. But I don't think he's that good. I think he is probably going to get the break speed off him here relatively soon. But what do I know? Boys, what you got?
I love it. A thing or two, brother. And that was a solid breakdown, and you knew to take the finish there on our boy Raul Rosas Jr. Better odds on our boy Ricky Tercios, who apparently was claiming to have staph infection before this as well, which you hate to hear if that is true. If he's lying, then that's just weird. But if that's the case, horrible. But he came out of guns, or should I say, a kicks a-blazing. And I assume maybe that game plan was to deter Raul's wrestling game. But hey, man, like taxes, like death, and like Thanos, okay? Raul grabbing you and taking you down is damn near inevitable, okay? And that's exactly what we saw. But you did have some adversity. Mad Max mentioned it. That choke looked tight. It was in there deep, but he somehow persevered. Showed that he's a dog that, just at 19 years old can roll around with the big boys. And so at this point, he's a phenom, and he can basically do whatever he wants, right? He doesn't need to be rushing the top 15. Hopefully no Icarus effect here, but the reality is, whether win, lose, or draw, Raul Rosas Jr. is going to garner the attention. And that's coming from a fellow Mexican here, myself. But, sky's the limit for the kid, man. I don't have anyone top of mind, but any young up-and-comer in the bantamweight division certainly would love to sign that contract to fight this guy. But he's tough, and like Mad Max said, he's not perfect, brother. He's a far away from a champion at this point. Again, he's 19, so I'm gonna give him at least that and father time. Let him hopefully develop a little bit in the right ways, because he's certainly athletic and he has a gas tank on him, and he's got some good wrestling. Those are all good things that any coach, or if I'm looking at a clay sculpture here, I can work with that mold piece and make it into a little fine piece of ass. But I digress. He's a stud. Excited to see him get back in there as soon as possible. I didn't expect to say ass. I was like, going to say art or something, but it's rolled off the tongue, baby.
The way
Hell
it came out was actually awesome. It was stunning. We have to clip that. I hope you timestamp that. That ass. That ass. Oh man, I know you guys are tired, but that hopefully woke you up for the next 10 minutes for these next 2 fights. For that ass.
So you know I'm getting delusional. I'm talking about that ass.
Talking about that ass. You already know, brother. You already know what it is. Yeah, man. A lot going on this episode, folks. I'm gonna be crazy. I'm gonna throw out a name before we move on to the next fight. I want to see Raul Rosas Jr. get tested. And I think that there's someone that seems very game to take these fights, even though he doesn't have to. And again, you're going to talk me off a ledge. Maybe I'm just being crazy. Maybe I've had too much shots. Maybe I haven't had enough. I'm going to say Kyler Matrix Phillips. Let him jump the line a little bit. Let him really see what he's all about. And let him go in there with someone that's kind of a grappling stud, in my opinion, in the top 15 of the bantamweight division. Any opposition here?
Oh, Kyler will piece him up. He's a fun guy.
Shit.
Yeah, Kyler will beat the shit out
Piece
of
him
him.
up. Sheesh. He'll piece that boy up. Send him back to adult school.
Oh man. That was funny. he said, oh shit, Kyler will piece him up.
He'll piece him up, bro.
I could see him potentially finishing him.
I could see that as well. All right. Maybe
But I'll pay to
subconsciously.
see it
That's,
if
I was gonna say maybe
I'll pay to
subconsciously
see
that's
it.
what I'm trying to see, you guys.
I'll
I
pay
don't
to see it.
I don't
Absolutely. Sign me up.
But you know what? Moving into the next one, I'll tell you something I'm definitely trying to see, or rather was trying to see, and that is Dominic Reyes coming in against Dustin Jacoby. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I had a 6-legger, and I hit 4 out of 6. I just needed to hit one more, and it would have been very profitable for me. And Dustin Jacoby was supposed to be the easy money here. You're talking about a man that has not seen a win, has not had his hand lifted up by another human being since 2019. Okay, and Dustin Jacoby is a former Glory kickboxing beast. Man beast, if you will. And Dominic Reyes was just not looking great in those last couple fights. I mean, the only good thing about Dustin Jacoby's performance in there was that he landed 6 of 16 strikes, and 616 is my favorite number. Aside from that, it was the fucking Dominic Reyes show, folks. And I'm not mad. Look, one thing is, if you're gonna bet, never bet with money that you're not wholeheartedly happy with losing, or not gonna be upset with losing, for that matter. So I'm not mad that I lost money. And I always tell myself, like, if I'm betting against my heart, it's even better than when I'm betting with my heart, right? Because if I'm betting on the statistic winner, Dustin Jacoby was the safe bet here. I found a good bet for him. I bet it as part of my little parlay on underdogs, and it didn't pan out. What did pan out is a guy that I really, really wanted to see get back in the win column, getting a win. And me just losing a small sum of money that I'm okay with losing. So much happier to see Dominic Reyes get his hand raised in there. It was a fantastic performance for him. That left hand will hurt anybody that it hits. If you leave your head on the center line, looking at you, Jacoby, you're going to get lit the fuck up. We saw it against Yuri. Like, Yuri was getting his bell rung until he got the knockout. He admits that he was knocked out in that fight. I don't know if you guys have seen that interview, but he's admitted it. So the guy's got it. He's got power. He hurt John Jones numerous times across the first 3 rounds of that fucking fight too. Very happy to see Dominic Reyes get back in the win column. 3 things that impressed me the most about him. The left hand, shocker. We already knew that was going to be there, but it's back, folks. It's fucking back. It looked better than ever. He went back to Cobra Kai. Love Cobra Kai. Shout the fuck out, Cobra Kai. And he's doing great things with those guys. Back to his roots, and it showed. And his spacing, distancing, and ability to utilize range in this fight, and ability to do this against a former Glory kickboxer with more experience than him in MMA and kickboxing. he looked really fucking good in this fight, guys. Am I wrong here? Anything stand out to you guys here? Am I wrong? Mad Max, talk to me.
Yeah, he didn't look good. He got hurt early. He was backed up against the cage. He also then proceeded to push Jacoby up back against the cage as well. So it was like a kind of a close in fight there in the pocket. But I'm glad he got the win. We hedged it. We took Justin Jacoby inside the distance plus 100, and then we hedged it with Reyes inside the distance at plus 350. But Reyes was getting cracked. He was up against.
I mean,
the
he
cage
did get cracked,
early.
but we're talking about a glory kickboxing fucking just badass that has massive power.
Yeah, we sure are. So then we sell it as it actually happened, not as well. He out there looking great and all this other stuff. I was like, no, he got hurt. He got clipped a little bit early, and then he recovered.
He looked much better than he's looked in his last fucking like 6 fights. I think that's safe to say.
I don't know. Like you just said, he was winning the Yuri fight.
He was winning the Yuri fight.
Yeah, that's my point, though. He's not looking
it.
better because he was winning the Yuri fight. So it looked much the same. I think it looked much the same. I was glad to see him get it done. I think Jacoby's very hittable. He has a poor chin, and Reyes has clear power, always has. So this was not a far stretch of an outcome to me, hence why we placed the bet on him inside the distance. I figured one of these two dudes were going to go out there and get it done, but I don't know. It didn't make me – I see everybody saying, like, oh, Reyes is back. And it's like that's not how the fight looked to me.
I wouldn't say he's back and going to go on a title run, but I also would firmly disagree with you saying that Jacoby has a suspect chin. He's been knocked out twice in his entire career. Like, that's not a suspect chin on somebody that's had fucking almost 30 fights.
How many times has he been knocked out in the UFC?
Once? Twice?
How many times has he been hurt in the UFC?
I mean, being hurt and being knocked out are two very different things.
Yeah, I didn't say he get knocked out. I said he had a suspect chin. That doesn't instantly mean that he gets knocked out. It means he gets hurt is actually what it means. And he's been hurt in multiple fights, which was the point.
I mean, I'm not disagreeing that he's been hurt, but his recovery is pretty awesome as well. And the ability to recover,
and said he didn't have a suspect chin, which he clearly does if he's getting hurt. That's what you just said. That's what you just said. You just said that, not me.
I don't think he has a suspect chin, though. I really don't.
Okay.
I really don't. Like, being able to be hurt, that's a human chin.
That's literally what it means to have a suspect chin is if you're getting hurt in small exchanges, but all right.
I would say a suspect chin is like what people talk about when they talk about Luke Rockhold in his last handful of fights. Like,
no, that would be no
every
chin.
Single fight. Oh, God.
That would be zero chin.
Here we go with the glass chin discussion.
Yeah, you're going to say Luke Rockhold doesn't have a glass chin?
I mean, I'm not going to die on that hill.
Right. So then don't bring it up like you're going to say that. You just brought that up like you were going to not say that. He does have a glass chin.
I'm saying he has a suspect chin at the very least. And there are a number of fighters that have suspect chins. Like, if you talk about Dustin Poirier at featherweight, he had a suspect chin at featherweight. He would get dropped almost every fight. Dustin Jacoby is not getting dropped every single fight.
I didn't say he did. I said he has a suspect chin. And also, Dustin Poirier has a suspect chin at lightweight, believe it or not.
I don't know. I wouldn't agree with that.
Okay. You don't have to.
But we can agree to disagree. What's that?
Huh?
What'd you say?
I said I placed the bet on the fight and won the money on it, so it's fine. I mean, we don't have to disagree. Like what I said was going to happen is the outcome. He has a suspect chin and he got cracked, so it is what it is. He has a suspect chin.
I mean, he got cracked by the champion of the lightweight division. But again, we don't have to agree.
Of the lightweight division? Oh, you're talking about Poirier. I'm talking about Jacoby. I'm like, he's light heavyweight.
Sorry, you would switch to Dustin Poirier. I'm just trying to stay on track. But again, we don't have to agree.
You brought up Poirier. You said he had a suspect chin
I brought him up at featherweight.
I didn't switch. You just said I switched to Poirier. You switched to Poirier.
No, but then you talked about him at lightweight. Again, dude, I'm not trying to fight with you, Mad Max.
Okay.
Brother, we're on the same page here.
It doesn't sound like it.
I mean, we're not agreeing.
That would be on the same page, correct? I don't. Maybe
No.
your use of the English language is different than how I use it. I guess is what it sounds like.
No, I mean,
that's not being on the same page.
We're on the same fight. I'm saying like we're agreeing. Like I brought up Poirier on featherweight. You brought him up in lightweight. I thought we were still on Poirier. Again, brother, we're not fighting here. We're talking about the fights. We're not participating in the fights.
No, it's. I mean, I hear you both. I think Dustin, he's a savvy vet for sure, and honestly, this felt a little bit like a get right fight for Dom Reyes. Dustin's not ranked or nothing, so it feels like a little bit of a of a step down in that sense, but it was exactly what Dom Reyes needed. He needed to just get back in the freaking winners column. I mean, it's crazy to think that dude has not won since his fight with John Jones, and that was back in 2020. That was before COVID, which literally feels like a lifetime.
Which he should have won that fight.
And
I think a lot of people would
he
debate
looked good, man. And then unfortunately, just a really bad swing of things since then. It's a bad stretch of luck. Getting TKO'd by Jan Blachowicz, Yuri, obviously, that we were talking about there. Brutal knockout. And then Ryan Spann even coming in and knocking him out. You want to talk about glass chin or suspect chins. I mean, Dom is kind of the definition of that when you look at 3 losses in a row to ranked opponents. Yeah, light heavyweight division, and as you get bigger, those things are more likely. So maybe that's unfair for us. But at 34 years old, it's like those are things to question. And I think Dom Reyes actually mentioned it in the post-fight show that he kind of had to test it himself. Like he didn't know what it was going to look like until you get in there, until you actually get hit. It's like, he even says like sparring with your boys or whatever, or guys that you're training with. He's like, you're not really like going full hard 100%. He's like, and it's different than you can't simulate like a real life fight. So all to say, I mean, Dom's not going to make a run for the title at this point. I mean, I don't think anyone's saying that, but I don't think he looked like necessarily a world beater, but he caught Dustin. He made him stumble at one point, which I was like, oh shit, there we go. And then just pummeled him from there, obviously. But Dustin is old too. I mean, let's call it what it is. Dustin's a little bit on the back nine at the age of 36 and close to over 30 fights. So all things considered, boy, Dom, man, I don't know what I want to see next for him. I mean, honestly, a part of me thinks like that's maybe a good way to go out. Just go out on top. You won. You still got it. Go out with a little bit of dignity, but I guess if he's going to go back in there, I mean, all these guys in the top 15 are just dogs.
I think anybody makes sense
on the door. Yeah, he could go in there. And I don't love his odds. Even at 14 or 15, I mean, Alonzo Menafield, I mean, dude's nuclear. And
I would not want to see that fight. That's like, you talk about suspect chin. I think Dominic has a suspect chin. I think most people would agree on that.
Yeah.
And Alonzo Menafield is not the greatest cardio horse, doesn't have the best stamina, but if he hits him once, that's probably all it would take. His nickname is Atomic, right? Like, dude looks like he was built in a test tube. I don't know. There's not a lot of favorable matchups. I guess I agree with you, but I don't want to agree with you. Like, sailing off into the sunset on a win, probably the most reasonable thing to do at this point in his career. There's not a lot of favorable matchups. I do think that there are some that shouldn't be favorable that are, like a Yuri Prokaska. If Yuri loses this match that he has coming up, pair him against Yuri. He was winning that fight up until he lost it. And then if he does win that, even though none of us think that he's going on a title run, if he beats Yuri in impressive fashion, the UFC might give him a title shot. And depending on where light heavyweight is, he might get a one-shot knockout because that's how light heavyweight is. Since John Jones has abandoned the belt, it's like that belt has probably moved more than any other weight class. Or maybe, I was going to say maybe lightweight since Khabib left, but no, it's got to be light heavyweight since Jones left. I don't know, man. I think, unless Mad Max, do you have a name on the tip of your tongue for him? Like, do you want to see him fight anybody else? Would you rather see him retire?
No, nobody I can think of. Sitting here looking at the matchups, maybe Johnny Walker. I don't know. I don't really give a shit.
Johnny Walker wouldn't be a terrible matchup. I feel like Johnny Walker, again, somebody that's very up and down trajectory. I don't know who I would take in that fight. I don't think I'd bet on that fight.
I don't like it for Reyes. I mean, it's battle of the chinny dudes.
Battle of the chins. Yeah, it's battle of the chins.
Johnny Walker's more explosive, faster, and bigger. So
I think Johnny Walker might land like a flying knee in that fight.
That fight would be most likely for them to both knock each other out as they're punching. First one to get up.
Take the under 1.5 on it, that's for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think that'd probably be the craziest, nicest bet. All right, we got one more fight, guys. And this is the one that had the most controversy on it of the night. But but it's probably going to be the one that we all agree on the most. Jared Cannonier against Nasruddin Imavov. Nano, take the lead on this one, my guy.
Hey, thank you, brother. Yeah, I mean, hey, finalizing the main card here, main event of the evening. 5 out of these 6 fights actually ended it with a finish, which I thought was pretty exciting, given the kind of slow start to the card.
First finishes with the new gloves, as far as like knockouts go as well.
Oh, shoot, there you go. They still work. They still knock people out. Everyone's complaining. Still getting some of that eye pokes and whatnot, but I guess that's going to happen regardless. But this fight, man, as I like to say, had a lot of implications, right? You're looking at a Cannonier, potential #1 contender shot on the line. Imavov looking to spoil the party there, looking to steal some of that momentum. And honestly, Cannonier started off really, really well. Looked strong, was commanding the center of the octagon, pushing Imavov back, established the jab, that range. He's got long reach as well, which could be a problem for a lot of people. Was trying to establish in the early rounds there with his wrestling, grappling control, trying to win in those exchanges. But I just, even watching that, like, although you can score it towards Cannonier, I just felt like Imavov was playing really good defense. Like, if people are shooting at you and you're, getting pushed up against the fence, like, how can you score from that perspective? And I think he just did a really good job of neutralizing Jared. Never gotten into disfavorable positions. I don't even know if he really got taken down, did he? I guess he did get taken down once, which didn't really feel like it was much production was done. And I think that was early on from Jared. But really, man, I mean, it all boiled down to just Jared. I don't know if it was the wrestling, or I don't know if it's just being 40 years old and being in there with another dog going 5 rounds. But it really felt like he just like lost steam. And once he lost steam, I mean, Imavov maybe fed off some of that, or maybe he stole some of his energy and took it and ran with it, brother. I did feel like his counterpunching throughout the whole fight was really impressive. I felt like it was strong. Like, he was missing, but everything was intentful. And I was like, oh, man, it's only a matter of time before he starts to land. And sure enough, had Cannonier wobbling, literally had Cannonier running for his life, running for the hills multiple times. And I know we're going to end up talking about it. Maybe we disagree here, because I as much as like I want to jump on the bandwagon that like it was an early stoppage, like I'm trying to put myself into Herzog's spot. Herzog's a dog. He's a damn good ref. And when you really break it down, like the way that Jared Cannonier was running away, and we're talking about a Jared Cannonier here, we're talking about an absolute savage. I mean, I would have never expected seeing that, but seeing it once, okay, you're trying to recover, because that's not illegal. There's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, you're putting up the 4 because it was twice, 3. By that 4th time, he's trying.
It happened
to, like,
4 times in a matter of
away,
36 seconds.
As opposed to trying to take him down or grapple or use something from a fighting perspective. It's like, no, you're just, now at this point, you're just running, and if the fence isn't there, you're probably falling over because your equilibrium's gone. So I think that's where Herzog was seeing that. And yeah, like maybe we could have seen 1 or 2 more definitive punches. Maybe Cannonier was going to start making his way back, but it's like, at that point, I just felt like it was pretty much where it was going. I think I seen enough as well. Maybe a little early, but at any point there, I definitely felt like I would have stopped it as well. So I'm going to lean on that. I'm going to defend our boy Herzog here. And unfortunately, with Jared Cannonier at 40 years old, looks like a fucking beast. I wish I have his body at 40 years old. I'll tell you that much.
Bro, same.
My God. But
it's incredible.
Other times undefeated, and Imavov's he's that dog that's getting better and better, and just younger, hungrier lion in the animal kingdom. That's how it goes, man. But curious to hear your guys' breakdown on it. I don't know, Matt Max, anything stick out to you? I mean, Jared, a little bit of grappling, but for the most part, Imavov, man, this guy, he's somebody now.
Yeah.
Oh, I think you unplugged your mic again, possibly. Too excited about the main event. Or the controversial stoppage, one or the other. While he is plugging his stuff back in and getting that figured out, I won't jump into my full breakdown. I'll definitely let Mad Max have the floor first here. I will say right off the bat, though, that I do agree with you, Nano. I could see it from either side. Like, if you want to yell and cry that it was an early stoppage, sure. Maybe it was an early stoppage. Sure, we possibly could have seen a couple more strikes. But at the end of the day, the referee's job is to protect the fighters from taking unnecessary damage. I thought he did just that. The fighter looked like he was taking damage. He turned his back. I think it was in either a 33 or 36 second time span. Jared Cannonier turned his back to his opponent and essentially jogged or half jogged away from him. If we're fighting and you turn your back to me and you run away from me, like 4 times in a round, I feel like is excessive. 4 times in a 30-second period is a lot. And it was essentially every time he would land that hook, it was not a good look. So yeah, man. I kind of side with, I could see both sides of the spectrum here, but I side with Jason Herzog doing a good job at doing his job. As they say in Starship Troopers, he was doing his pot. Mad Max, are you back?
Can you hear me?
I can.
So yeah, no, I would say it is an early stoppage. I would agree with him not intelligently necessarily defending himself 100% of the time. However, during the exchange that they stopped it on, he had blocked 90% of the shots. So it's like, why are we stopping the fight now when he got hurt by bigger shots that were like viable stoppages not 10 seconds prior? Why now all of a sudden? And the fact that effectively the entire MMA world is calling this an early stoppage should be a big giant red flag that there's something wrong here. So I don't know. I don't think it's like the most egregious stoppage on planet Earth. It was pretty clear that Imavov was winning the fight. They were both fading horribly, but the fact that they were both doing it didn't, to me, signal that somehow Cannonier was going to then be able to turn it around. But yeah, it was an early stoppage. Like it's pretty plain and simple. Like if the entire MMA world agrees on this, it's probably the case. And it's like, yeah, I have been on the wrong end of that multiple times, and I don't just then question the entire MMA world. I question myself, and it's like, okay, well, maybe I need to go back and rewatch this. And this is a fight that I only watched one time, so maybe I need to go back and rewatch it. However, again, given that basically everyone calls it an early stoppage, including commentary and everybody else, it's like, I don't know, maybe something was wrong here. Jason Herzog is, in my opinion, one of the best. Everybody has their off nights, to include the fighters. So why would you expect anything less from a ref, or more from a ref, I guess I should say. He's just as human as anybody else, but acknowledging that, you then also have to acknowledge that people then in turn sometimes make mistakes. So
100%.
It is what it is. It's a bummer for Cannonier because he's also at the tail end of his career where literally every single fight matters. And for something like this, it's like, that's rough. So that's it.
It's definitely tough for Cannonier. I mean, he's the biggest kind of loser of this whole situation, right? No matter what the MMA world thinks, no matter what we think, like he's the one that really got the shit into the stick here, especially if he thinks in his heart of hearts that he had something left in the tank to give. Didn't look like it from a viewer standpoint. And I will tell you, Mad Max, like I watched the fight a second time. I literally watched it early this morning. The second time I watched it is when I noticed how much Cannonier was running away. I didn't notice it in the first watch. To be honest with you, I thought maybe he did it like once or twice. But watching it that last time, I was like, okay, cool. The stop is coming. What prompted Herzog? Because again, you said Herzog, you would say, is one of the best refs. I would say he's like either 1A or 1B for me. It's him and Mark Goddard currently. Like those are two of the best refs in mixed martial arts, like pound for pound in my experience, from what I've seen, or at least in the last handful of years, right? But again, watching it, knowing when the stoppage coming, I was trying to pay more attention to see like, okay, again, like to Nano's fact, like I don't want to hate on the guy, right? Big fan of his. Just like you said, though, people have off nights. I think this was somewhere in between. I think it was an off night because obviously he didn't do the best job that we've ever seen him do. But at the same time, I also am not going to get angry at him for protecting a fighter. I don't think Cannonier was going to come back and do a whole lot different. And in the last 35, 36 seconds of that fight, I mean, he was turning his back a lot. I mean, it looked like he trained at the school of Ryan Garcia for that last 35 seconds. He needed a shot and turned his back. And it's just visually not a confident look and not a good look. For me watching, like, especially the second time around, I'm like, oh, he actually looks like he's in pretty bad condition here. But again, not to be a fence sitter, but to Mad Max's point, like in the finishing exchange, it was kind of weird because he blocked like 3 strikes and landed a hook. I think it was a hook he landed. But yeah, Kennedy blocked like 3 strikes and landed a hook of his own, and they stopped the fight. He still didn't look 100% great like when they stopped the fight, but he was also intelligently defending, which is like step 1 of not stopping the fight, and landing his own damage back, which is like step 2 of not stopping the fight. So I almost wish they would have stopped the fight when he was running away before that next exchange started. I think if that had happened, less people online and in the world of MMA in general would be like, oh, this was a premature stoppage. Because if you see someone running away after eating a shot and then the ref's like, no more, it's a lot harder to be like, oh no, I'm still good. Then I just blocked 3 and landed a hook. Granted, I ran away right before that, but I just landed one. So again, like I can see both sides of the argument. I still think Herzog is the fucking man. I would still tell you that he's 1A or 1B as far as refereeing goes in the sport of mixed martial arts. And my stance on that doesn't change for sure. But yeah, again, I see the side of the spectrum on it being an early stoppage. We all want to see these guys go out on their shield. We don't want to see it be iffy or wishy-washy. We are going to break right after this. Any names for Nasruddin Imavov? Mad Max.
No, I mean, I've seen that rumors that they're already re-signing the rematch in Paris, so I'd be fine with that.
For him and Cannonier?
Yep.
Oh, I hadn't seen that.
I've seen a couple people talking about that. That's what they're hearing buzz of, so who knows whether or not it actually happens. Rumors these days.
I wouldn't be mad at that. That wouldn't be a bad match at all. It was a fun match the first time. Yeah.
Run it back. Why not?
Yeah, no opposition from me. No opposing from me. Well, that does it for this episode, guys. Guys, gals, folks of fight fans of all shapes and sizes. We'll get back at you with another episode later in the week where we will be breaking down the next fight card coming up, which probably not going to be the best, most stacked fight card of all time. I think we'll be breezing through that one a lot faster than we did this episode. So we'll jump right into that on Thursday. We'll hit you with a time on that morning. Check out the Instagram or the tweeter, any of our 3 to get the down low on that time. And we'll see you then, folks. Until then, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, smash that bell for notifications, and keep on going, keep on growing. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the MMAnomaly Show. No filter. As you may have been able to tell, we dig the MMA, and our passion is to dive deep into the upcoming fights, give you our expert breakdowns, and help you make sense of all the chaos that is the fight game. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, make sure to find us on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch at MMAnomaly. Be cool, and we'll see you next time.